Hey, what's happening, everybody? Welcome back to the cafe. It is great to see you guys again today. Guys, we're on the third and last piece of the Summer Wells scenario we're looking into. Appreciate you guys joining me for it. And I hope you're all having an amazing day. June 19th, 2024. It's Wednesday, guys. Halfway through the week. Let's do this thing. Let's get this show on the road. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Hope you're all having a great day today and hope you all had a great night last night. And thank you guys for joining me for the third and final part of the Summer Wells Revisited series I was running. I appreciate you guys joining me for this. Hope you're all having a great day. Come on in, everybody. Get a seat, get comfortable if you will. Please make sure you're hitting that like button as you come through the door. Please. And please share this out to anybody you think would want to hear about this. I appreciate that very much. Come on in. Get comfortable. We got 45 people in here right now at 23 likes. That's awesome. Appreciate you guys so very much. Thank you, Moni. So let's see who we got that is joining us thus far. Looks like Moni in the middle's in the house. Miss Brandy B, welcome back to you both. DS T2014 Cheesecake Mafia, great to see you tonight. Salty Sleuth, welcome back, dear. Great to have you here. Music City Mom 2 is in the house. Hello to you and welcome back. Let's see here. DS Butterfly 71. Miss Andy Rose, welcome. Great to have you here. Great to see you. Miss Iris, thank you for joining us today. Farq, welcome back to you. Victoria Burgess, great to see you today. Lisa and Canoli, welcome back. It's been a while. Great to see you. The 360 Live coming from the UK. Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate you very much. The girl next door, always me, 1969. Welcome back to you. Mad Jen's in the house. Welcome, welcome. Great to see you all so very much. Let's see who else do we have here. Cheesecake Mom. We have Miss Tomboy Charms in the house. Great to see you. Great to have you here. Jane H, welcome. Great to see you. Great to have you here. Okay, welcome back, Aurora. Good to see you today. Good afternoon, Niles Buckman. Great to see you. Thank you for joining us. Miss Low Key, welcome back, Kelly. Good to see you today. Great to have you here. Guys, please hit that like button as you come through the door, if you will. I appreciate that so very much. Trying to see. Come on in, everybody. Get a seat. Get comfortable, if you will, please. Give it a little bit of time to get some more people in here today. Just a few minutes. Let's see here. Welcome back, Leslie and Billy. SRB, great to see you. Thank you for joining us. No worries. There's never no late. You just come in after other people. That's all. The real Seth Rogers Shaley, welcome back to you. Great to see you. Come on in, everybody. Get comfortable, if you will. Please, please, please. Walt Harris is in the house. Congrats, Walt. 6 months of being a member. That's pretty awesome, Walt. Thank you very much for being part of this community. We appreciate you so much. Come on down, guys. Come on down. Lobster mac and cheese. That sounds good. That sounds burra good. Sam, welcome. Good to see you, Sam. Thank you for joining us from across the pond. Always great to have you here, Walt. Always great to have you here. Captain Jenks is in the house. What's going on, Mr. Captain Jenks? Good to see you, sir. Please, please, on your way through the door, make sure that you do hit that like button, if you will. I will do that, Miss Shauna. Welcome to you, Miss Shauna. Come on, guys. Hit that button on the way through that door if you can. Gonna wait just a few more minutes to get a few more people in here. That way we don't have to start it again. Hopefully we do. And if not, we kick it off and get rolling. Again, guys, thanks for joining me. I appreciate you so very much. Ava Hackshaw, welcome. Good to see you. She said, I did it. Did you? All right. You guys are awesome. Thank you for that. Just Andy. We've got Tiny, but Power per Storm's popping up. So if anyone says anything and I don't respond, oh, no problem, hon. No problem. Again, Andy, welcome to the Blue Crew. Appreciate you very much. And I know you'll be welcomed in and treated the way you should be by all these awesome peeps in here. Thank you to my moderators for joining me and doing what you do, because I could not, should not, nor would not do this without y'all. Thank you very much. Yeah, I don't know. We're supposed to get something today. I hope we don't. We did last night. You're absolutely welcome, Miss Andy. Well, that was quick, Mo. Good stuff, Brandy. Thank you, hon. Thank you, thank you. Good stuff, good work. Quick on the draw. My power went out night before last. Twice. It was weird. There was no storm when it happened either. It was strange. I don't get it. Yeah, that was quick, Brandy. Jeez. Yes, very quick. Brandy's gotten pretty good with all this stuff. I got to say that much for sure. Better than I am. Gotcha. That makes sense. Have you heard from Cassie, SRB? Do you know how she's doing? Everything's all right? And where is Doodlebug? Oh, that's right. They're getting a new car. Yes. I hope that goes well and she gets what she wants. Gets a good deal too. Can you guys hear me okay? Do I sound clear? Am I too loud? Not loud enough? How do I sound? I got to get a new pop filter for this microphone, so this one doesn't seem to want to work the way it's supposed to, I should say. Gotcha. Would they end up getting this, RB? Sound good? Good. Thank you. Once I get this new filter for this, it'll sound better. I appreciate that, guys. Reed's Jam. Hello. Welcome. Good to see you. Good, good. What do we got here? I think you should get the Burt Reynolds watch for smoking it. There you go. There you go. A GMC Acadia. Oh, those are nice. Very nice. Nice vehicles. Absolutely. We got 65 peeps in here with 41 likes. Come on, guys. We're almost there. There's our doodle. What's happening, Duty? Good to see you, dear. She must not be getting the notifications again. That's okay. Welcome, Genealogy Gypsy. Good to see you today. Thank you for joining us. You had some funny comments over there at Clues earlier. Miss Gina B, good to see you today. Thank you for joining us. Are you feeling better, Duty? Those meds working since you finally went and got put on them? You're good, Genealogy. Thank you. Taylor with Stitching Bitchin' in True Crime. Welcome. Good to see you today. Thank you for joining us. Doc Holiday's in the house. Welcome, Doc. Great to see you today. Excuse me. Mm. The Andy Squatch. Now we have the Kimberfoot and Andy Squatch. All right. Cindy Mentz. How do I find the other two videos of the Summer Wells case? They should be on my playlist when you go back. Click on my channel and go back into my channel. It should pull up. Should not be a problem. Thank you, Doodle, very much. Come on in, everybody, get comfortable. I'm about to get started. Once again, thank you to anybody that donated to these links here or does donate to the links. We do appreciate that very much, guys. We don't expect any of you to do it, but we more than appreciate it. It pays for my internet, my StreamYard, and my YouTube Premium, and so on and so forth. So it definitely keeps me coming to you guys every single day. So thank you again to anybody that does and has. I appreciate you so much. Welcome, Steven. It's great to see you. I'm doing good. I hope you are as well. There's a link to Salty's channel, guys. If you would like to check that out, I'd appreciate it. Great stuff coming out of that channel over there. I've been enjoying myself the past few times I've been there. Please go over there, subscribe if you haven't. Check it out. Show a little bit of love and check out what she's feeding everybody right now. It's good stuff, guys. It really is. Good stuff, Steven. Good stuff. Oh, I'm sorry. That's okay. The Kimberfoot fell asleep last night, too. I need a specific pop filter that wraps around. It's like it slides up over this mic here, if you can see it. It slides around because this is a circular mic instead of a regular. This thing here doesn't work. This one has little straps and it slides up over the end of this and it covers it. So I'm able to keep it crisp for you guys. That's all. All right, all right, all right. Come on in. Miss Allison, hello and welcome. I'm having a bad day, you guys. Please don't mind me. I ran out of creamer today. It's bad. It's very bad. I'm almost out of the coffee too. It's bad. That sounds great, Mad Jen. I appreciate you very much. Yeah, I got one already. The round one. It just falls down all the time and it causes problems. I hate milk though, because it cools the coffee down. You know what I mean? I like the coffee to stay hot, which is why I use the powdered creamer stuff. When is today? Wednesday. Yeah. No, thank you, Tomboy. I appreciate that very much. And Doodle, thank you for that. Anybody that would like to jump into the True Crime Cafe merchandise, guys, there's the link for it. Check it out. If you'd like, please get yourself a True Crime Cafe t-shirt, hoodie, coffee mug, like one of these. Pretty cool. See, I love the powder. I don't like my coffee to be cold. As soon as you add milk to it, it gets cold. It's like if I wanted cold coffee, I would drink iced coffee, you know? I could be chatting with the Tiger Gang. Sorry. What do you mean? I appreciate you being here, Mad Jen, very much. My poor mom. Ah, I'd rather have cold coffee with creamer or black coffee. Oh, see, a lot of people. My wife don't like it either. She likes iced coffee though. That's the difference. Well, I hope your mom's okay, Mad Jen. Oh, okay. Sounds good, Tomboy. Thank you, dear. Well, we got 61 peeps in here. Probably all we're gonna get for today. So let's get this thing's a rolling. I need a coffee mug that says Brandy, the OG mod. We gotta get you one. We need to get you one. Oh, Lord Almighty, I'm so sorry, Mad. Good God, I'm so sorry to hear that. We need to get Brandy one made. A coffee mug that has Brandy the OG mod on it. We'll figure that out, Brandy. Yes, absolutely. Oh, I just misunderstood. That's all. I'm so sorry. I completely misunderstood. There's Molly. Good to see you, Molly. Thank you for joining us. All right, guys, let's get this train rolling. Let me know how the audio and stuff is on this too, please, if you will. Again, guys, we're 3 years in on a Summer Wells case with really nothing going on, no hints, no nothing, guys. In 3 years, it's insane to me. I don't get it, but it's definitely gone cold, and that's why we're back in here, heating this back up, talking about it, and bringing things back to the surface. Oh wow, I got you, Mad Jen. That's crazy. Hey, if it worked and it made her happy, that's what matters. Yeah, that's the same exact one I have right now. Doodle, or I'm sorry, Tomboy, the exact same one. It doesn't stay where I like it, and it gets in my face. This one slides up over the end of the microphone, and it doesn't stick out or anything. So, Doodle brought cake. That's awesome. All right, let's get rolling.
Good evening. An emotional time today as community members gather to honor Summer Wells, who went missing 3 years ago. News 5's Janya Nordello attended the vigil tonight and tells us more about the ceremony.
Thanks, Jeff.
On June 15, 2021, 5-year-old Summer Wells disappeared without a trace. And even though years have passed since her disappearance, the community is still holding on to hope.
You want to keep her face out there and just keep reminding people, no matter what you're doing in the area, keep your eyes open and look for her.
Hours before she disappeared, Summer was seen at Warriors Path State Park with her family. This is why year after year, those in support of the Wells family host a Day of Justice for Summer. Event organizers tell me that the goal of this event is to keep children's well-being in mind.
Child safety awareness.
Hello, Miss Kimber.
For Summer, for
Welcome,
other
Terry.
missing children, and just the space to hold
Good
for
to
her.
see you,
That's
Alicia.
just for her.
Summer's dad, Don Wells, tells me that he's overwhelmed with the amount of support for his missing daughter.
Appreciate, these people's support for sure.
However, he also says knowing Summer is missing never gets easier.
With it being Father's Day and everything, it's been really tough. They've celebrated Father's Day in church today, so by the time I left church today, I was pretty upset.
Organizers say they want Summer's story to reach far beyond Tennessee.
In the future, we're hoping that every town would have their own Summer's Day, where Summer's picture, of course, would get shared and her story would get told.
To honor Summer, those attending released 36 butterflies, one for every month she's been missing. Both family and community members agree their ultimate hope is for Summer to come home.
I'm hopeful that, that Summer could possibly be in a good place, but it's hard to imagine.
Sometimes it's hard to have hope, but we have hope. We just keep looking, keep fighting, trying to find the truth.
In Kingsport, Janya Nordello, News 5 WCYB.
Is an age-progressed photo of what Summer Wells may look like now. It was created last year by forensic experts at the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Photos like these are created every 2 years after a child goes missing and then every 5 years after age 18. If you have any information on the disappearance of Summer Wells, you are urged to call investigators at 1-800-TBI-FIND.
So we've kind of moved into the modern times with this case, guys, the most recent stuff, and that's what I'm going to be showing you mostly today. Since it's been 3 years, there's been a lot of things that have popped up about Summer's case, so on and so forth. So that's where we're at with it now. He did sound like Arctic. I agree with you.
Almost 3 years. On June the 15th of 2021, then 5-year-old Summer Wells was reported missing from her home on Ben Hill Road in the Beech Creek community. The area was filled with law enforcement and search crews for weeks, but there was no sign of the missing girl. Now, Beech Creek is much quieter, almost like it was before that alert went out. There are faded posters with Summer's face and information, with the hopes that someone who might know something will come forward. Shannon Phillips is one neighbor who wants to know where Summer is. He lives a few miles from the Wells family and went out to help search for her when she was first reported missing. He says he doesn't understand how law enforcement isn't any closer to finding her.
They should do more to try to find this little girl, because ever since then, I've been really, really cautious with my grandkids.
Again, there is still an active Amber Alert for Summer tonight. The last update we received from law enforcement was about this time last year. That's when they released this age-progressed photo of Summer. That's what she could look like. Summer has blonde hair and blue eyes. She was reportedly last seen wearing gray pants, a pink shirt, and was possibly barefoot.
All right, guys, here we go. Leslie and Billy, wonderful to see you. Welcome, Widow 33, Allison, all you guys, thank you for joining us. All right, guys. So yes, there's another missing child. Very sad. All right, the next thing I'm going to give you guys is, this was brought out by the TBI themselves in regards to this case. Just to give you guys an update on their side of things as well. It's kind of important in my opinion. Oh, Milo, yeah. It is very heartbreaking, Widow. Very, very much so. All right, guys.
We don't have the evidence in this case to know for sure whether or not Summer was abducted or whether or not she walked away from her home and became lost. It's really important to us to not focus all of our efforts on just one of those two. We think that the only way we'll be successful in finding Summer is to continue to walk down both of those investigative paths to ensure that we don't become focused on one area alone and miss something that's crucially important. I would say this case has not gone cold. A cold case is typically framed up as a case where there are no tips or leads that are coming in and there are no investigative efforts that are happening because there is no place to travel with the investigation. I would say in this case, thanks to the public, we've continued to have tips and leads that have come in that agents have been able to follow up on continuously. And the agents have worked tirelessly when tips and leads weren't coming in to try to find ways to investigate when typically people would lay down their effort. It has been a great partnership between the community and law enforcement to not let this case sit and go sterile. We continue to focus on ground search efforts.
Probably,
We
Leslie.
continue
More than likely,
to
yes.
Focus on interviews of those who may have information about vehicles that have traveled through the area or technology that could
No,
have been
Jerry.
used that may give us an investigative lead.
No, not today.
All stones are being turned over.
About to be, though, because I'm out of
There's
coffee
not
and creamer,
one
but
thing that's being
not,
done.
not,
We've been
not as of
extremely
yet.
creative as we've investigated this case and continue to try to find ways to turn over rocks that we didn't even know that were there to turn over. Children are our top priority at TBI. They are the most vulnerable population that we have. They're our most precious things in our world. TBI has always placed an emphasis on missing children, and we've done that through multiple programs that are established here. We look for children when most people aren't. And this case is one that we've just not been able to overcome, and it's troubling. Many people have speculated what they think has happened in this case. The difficult part of the speculation is that if we as investigators speculate and focus our efforts in one direction, we're making a huge mistake. We have to make sure that we're being completely comprehensive as we investigate. And being focused in one direction is a tragedy for an investigation. So until we find evidence that points us in a direction that we know is the right direction, we'll continue to be comprehensive. We'll continue to explore every option that can be out there, and we would continue to ask for the public's help in doing so. Typically, we have a couple of agents assigned to an investigation, and that's been enough. We've had over 6,500 leads, tips and leads come in on this case. Those have all been reviewed. They've been worked. We continue to get those. And it is a monstrous task, but it's one that's not overwhelmed us. We have been strategic in the way that we've handled this investigation. We have some of our
Thank
most
you so much,
talented agents assigned to
SRB.
this
So very
case.
much. Appreciate
Some of
it.
our most talented intelligence analysts from the Bureau assigned to this case. We have brought in subject matter experts within TBI from across the state to assist in this investigation. We have thrown everything that we know to throw at this case, and we haven't had the answers that we need to get. We know we'll get them, but we don't have them today. When I see the picture of Summer Wells, I see my daughter. And I can tell you that if my daughter was missing, I would sure hope that somebody was looking for her every day. And it brings me concern and satisfaction, really.
Welcome,
Concern
Kendra.
that we don't have the answers, the satisfaction of knowing that we have the best agents at TBI that are working on this case in connection with other local law enforcement and federal agencies who are doing their best. And if my daughter was missing, all of the people that are working on this case are the people who I would choose to work on a case if my daughter was missing.
It has now been 3 years since a Hawkins County 5-year-old went missing from her home. It's our top story tonight. Thank you for joining us. I'm Catherine Simpson. 3 years later, and the Amber Alert for Summer Wells is still active. News Channel 11's Maddie Cottisbody attended an event marking Summer's disappearance. She tells us why her family is still attending events like this one 3 years later.
15th, 2021, 5-year-old Summer.
I'm okay, Leslie. I'm just dealing with some stuff, struggling a little bit with things. That's all. I'm fine, though. I appreciate you asking very much. I knew I told you guys before. Most of you guys, after you've been here for a while, you can obviously tell when there's something not right with me. I haven't been crying, though. I don't know what that is. Just struggling with some stuff here, not in here. No big deal. But thank you for asking. I do very much appreciate you.
Summer Wells went missing. Now, 3 years later, the community is doing all that they can to keep her name in the public's mind.
Summer's father, Don Wells, says he keeps attending events like this one called Summer's Day in the hopes of connecting with his missing daughter.
Summer might see this one day and hear her name and be like, wait, that's my name. They're talking about me.
For the last 3 years, community members have gathered on the anniversary of Summer's disappearance.
We had decided to hold something that was not really a prayer vigil, but we wanted
Thank
to
you very much,
kind of
Cal.
focus it on child safety and awareness for Summer. So it kind of has a double purpose.
The event featured activities such as rock painting and offered information on staying safe this summer. Organizer Skylar Park says the goal is to help those who might find themselves in the same situation.
It's the situation that nobody sees coming and nobody wants to be in, but if it does happen, it helps to
Thank you,
know what's
Barbara,
to
so
expect
very
and to
much.
be prepared. So we really wanted to focus on activities that families do during the summer and ways to stay safe while doing those.
The event also honored other missing in Tennessee. Park says she wanted this event to help those with missing family members to feel that they weren't alone. Don Wells says he's thankful.
We think a lot about Summer, or I wish she could be here with us. I don't know. I'm glad that people are doing this for me and my wife. It helps us a lot.
The event ended with a butterfly release at 7:03, the time when the first officer arrived on the day of Summer's disappearance. While remembering her is important, the Wells family says they want to see her come home.
We appreciate the community and those, people that are supporting us, and they're keeping their eyes and ears open for Summer.
Anyone with information regarding Summer's disappearance are asked to call 1-800-TBI-FIND. In Kingsport, Maddie Cottaspati, News Channel 11.
All right, one moment, folks. Let's see here. Give me a second. Let me see here.
Look who it is.
Than Dawn and Candace, who have been very quiet recently. They just did an interview days before the 3-year anniversary of their daughter, Summer Wells' disappearance. What they have to say is very interesting. On the 15th June 2024, Summer Wells will be missing for 3 years, and not sure how much longer this case will go on, with absolutely no updates anymore from TBI or Hawkins County. Pretty pathetic if you ask me. They dropped the ball on this case from day one. Don Wells did most of the talking in this interview, and said that they know Summer was taken off the property. They know that she was taken away in a vehicle, or else they would have found her somewhere in the area. But who's responsible, they don't know. Don and Candace say it's been a while since they even talked to law enforcement, probably over a year ago. Don tried to talk to an FBI agent about it, but that didn't go anywhere. Here's what shocked me. Don said that it's probably a good thing they didn't hear from Hawkins County. What an interesting statement to make. He was asked why he said that. Don said Hawkins County is always negative towards them. Don and Candace go on to say that all their kids have been stripped away from them. They're not sure about Summer, but they know where the boys are. Candace and Don no longer have rights to their sons. Don Wells said he feels that he and his wife were targeted by the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office. He said they belittled and intimidated him. Moving on, it seems like Don might think CPS kidnapped Summer. When asked about his thoughts on what happened to her 3 years later, He says that someone called CPS about him allowing the kids to play with loaded guns, and the case was closed on June 14th, and then 24 hours later, Summer is gone. Candace didn't even sit through the whole interview. She got up because apparently it was too much for her.
All right, all right. Thank you so very much, Leslie. I do appreciate it. More than you know, and it means a lot. I mean, there's nothing anybody can really do. I got things I got to handle here, and it's becoming stressful again. So, again, not your guys' fault. I try not to bring it in here, but you guys are relentless sometimes. So, and I respect that. I do. I appreciate how much you guys care. That means a lot to me. It really does. All right, let's get this interview in here. Um, let me see here. I thought that was something else. I guess it's not. Maybe this is it. Hold on a minute.
Jake?
No, hold on a minute. Thank you, SRB. Welcome, Lori Facts Not Feelings. Good to see you. Where is it? Good Lord, come on. Let's see if this is it.
Constantly talk about.
Okay. Yes, she does. Okay. One moment. Thank you, Doodle. Where is this? Hello, Miss Terry. How are you?
I'm good. I thought you needed some company up there today.
Oh, I'm okay. I appreciate you, though, very much.
You're welcome.
All right, let's see here. I'm struggling with this here, too, a little bit. My apologies. Some of these things aren't working right.
Did you say another child's missing?
Yeah, there is another one out of Tennessee, I believe.
Not or is?
Yeah, there is. I'm sorry.
It's not the one they found, right? No.
No, it's another one, and as of today, I believe.
Oh no.
Okay. Let me see. Is this going to be the one? Okay. All right. So I did want to play this. I actually wanted to play this yesterday and I didn't get to. Welcome, Avery. Good to see you. I like watching these guys break this down, interviews down. It tells a lot about this. This is Behavior Panel doing an interview, or I'm sorry, a breakdown and analyzation of the Wells during their interviews. So she was found today. Okay, thank you, Allison. That's good.
Oh, the girl in Tennessee that's missing?
Yeah. Yeah, she had here we go, from Clarksville. That's good. Yes. So let's check out what these guys have to say about the way the body language and things like that happens within the interview with the Wells. So first and foremost, thank you, Avery, for becoming a meatball. We appreciate you very much for jumping in the sauce with us, and welcome to the family. Very much appreciated.
Now, 2 of these guys were on Dr. Phil, right?
This guy here and this guy here, yes.
Yeah.
Scott and Greg both. I like watching their breakdowns. They're pretty good, I think.
I would love to learn that. How to do that.
Welcome, Shaylee. Good to see you, dear.
I am Chase Hughes. Did 20 years in the U.S. military, wrote the #1 best-selling book on behavior profiling, influence, and persuasion. Nowadays, I train everyday people and intelligence operatives in the same. Greg?
Greg Hartley. I'm a former Army interrogator, interrogation instructor, resistance to interrogation instructor. I've written 10 books on body language and behavior, put together the True Crime Workshop at truecrimeworkshop.com with Scott Rouse. And I spend most of my time on Wall Street and corporate America.
All right. Well, today we're going to talk about Summer Wells, and we're talking about her. We've got a lot of requests to do her. So again, the panelists have spoken, and we're going to do what they suggest. So Summer Wells is a little girl who's missing from Kingston, Tennessee. And we have a couple of interviews to take a look at of her parents. Greg found the footage. Greg, what do you got?
Yeah, I think it's Kingsport. It's up in the corner up in Tennessee. And what we have is
Kingsport.
her father and her mother, and there are clips that are interspersed, some with both of them together and some with just the father. She's been missing now. I think today is day 14. And the father released a statement early, went in front of a camera and did a full interview for, I think, 8 or 9 minutes. The mother only last night came out, and this is all.
What do we got going on now? Welcome, Debbie. Good to see you. We don't need no trolls in here. Okay. Okay. Thank you, SRB. If something happens where this drops out, guys, and shuts down, I will do my best to get back with you if the internet's having some issues. So
that we have from them. This is an active case, guys. Nobody knows where this little girl is or where she's missing. What we want you to pay attention to is we might be joking at times, but it certainly is not about this little girl. Anything that we find funny or any of that kind of thing will not be about this little girl. If you have any tips, please contact authorities. If you have any ideas, please contact authorities. Not conjecture, tips. This little girl is still missing.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's take a look at the first video. You guys ready?
Yeah.
Here we go.
I can't imagine how you've been feeling these past couple days.
It's been rough, but we know, we believe in resurrection. Never seen so many Christians in one place in my life. Like I say, that's pretty awesome to see that. And I just hope God in His mercies will deliver someone home to us.
Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, so interesting in terms of the, content of what he talks about. You know, I can't imagine how you're feeling. And he defers to society, religion, and God. So interesting deferral. I'm not sure really what it says, but it isn't necessarily talking about his specific feelings.
Welcome,
It could
Mystery.
be an element of, I guess, feeling supported by society, by the religion, by the God involved. Anyway, with sound off, on the whole, very comforting gestures around the son. So that felt good to me. Downward inflections in the voice when you've got the sound on. That sounds assured. So comfort, assurance. His weight is forward as well. So that seems like he's kind of leaning into the story. He wants to deliver information to us. Tongue grooming beforehand. I'll just say now that I see that throughout. I think that's a consistent kind of preparation before he speaks, though I'm open to other views on that. For me, it seemed like a baseline preparation that he always does. Boy's head is hung. Is that shame? Is that grief? Is it just the sunlight? They're facing into the sun at the moment. Not sure at this point. But anyway, that's what I've got as a first off on this first piece here. Chase, what do you got for us?
Yep, agree with you, Mark. And this is a clip where we're not seeing much emotion. We're not seeing a lot of anger, sadness, stress, or anything else. And just you watching this as an interesting data point for you as a panelist is that the reporter didn't ask a question. The reporter used what's called a provocative statement. And this is part of elicitation that people in the intelligence community get trained on. As far as I know, this is the first thing you learn when you learn about getting information out of people. And I think the reason that this unrehearsed statement about resurrection really came up is because no question was asked. And in the intelligence community, they have a saying that says the more sensitive the information you need, the less questions you should be asking. So the more we want to default to elicitation. And I think that's why this came out. I think it's also interesting that he defaults to saying we believe in the resurrection, which suggests
Am I up here still? Hello?
deliver the information that they're going to give us. So keep that in mind as we go through, and I'll point out some other things to let you know that. His voice is fairly monotone as well.
But we believe in resurrection. Never seen so many Christians in one place in my life, like I say.
And let's start paying attention to how many times he says and so, because we see that pop up at some key points over and over and over and over and over in some of this. Greg, what do you got?
Yeah, so if I start off, I'm going to say that your experience colors who you are and how you respond. I always say the organism does what the organism does. If you've been in trouble with the law, if you've got drama in your house, if you've been arrested a few months ago for domestic things, you're going to feel uncomfortable in front of a camera and under scrutiny. Doesn't mean that you did something to your child. It simply means that you got baggage associated with that, number one. Number two, he comes out of the gate immediately with religion, but he doesn't say, as God is my witness. He says, we believe in the resurrection.
We believe in resurrection.
That automatically makes you think that he assumes the girl's dead, but there could be another reason. And guys, I'm not making an excuse. I'm just going to tell you why that could happen. If you've converted to a religion, Maslow's hierarchy among people who have the same religion is saying the same things. And he probably rarely speaks outside of church. I saw the other day, he's in Seventh-day Adventist, and he was up talking in front of church. So it's probably a standard line he does every time he stands in front of people. And maybe a catchphrase, not literally a catchphrase only, but a way that makes him more comfortable. At the same time, he's gripping that little kid's shoulder, and the kid is getting comfort too. But at one point, he's gripping the kid's shoulder, and the kid looks up at him like, hey, that's a little tight. So it's an adapter, as you guys have already said. In terms of sadness, I always talk about this muscle and refer to this as a grief muscle, but it really isn't a single muscle. What's happening there with people is all these muscles, and I won't ever remember the name of them except for the big ones. But as these muscles, as you feel sad or sorrow, that internal part of the brow rises, the other brow comes down. And then as that's happening, most of us, when we're sad, our brow rises. And this is fighting that, is how you get a little arch there. It's a bunch of muscles involved that causes that look. What you need to be paying attention to when someone, I just read a study yesterday from 2012, and we'll put it down below, but they said that the frontalis muscle blowing out the grief, all those grief lines, is the best indicator of deception that most people can notice. So when the person's doing what I call request for approval, instead of that, it shows something. So here you see a little bit of an arch, but not much. But you do see that sadness. You see his eyebrows lifted up. And the indicators of grief or sadness are that arch, the brows lifted, and the corners of the mouth down. He has facial hair, but look at the corners of his mouth. They're drawn. He has some tears in his eyes or sweat. Hard to tell. It is hot. It is Tennessee this time of the year. He doesn't stance. He doesn't take high ground. He simply uses that religion piece. And he is adapting. We typically would say those are red flags, and the blink rate goes through the roof. So I'd pay attention. Those things make me wonder if he knows something, but we'll go through this as we go. Remembering that I'll show you one really good indicator that's hard to fake. It's really hard to fake this up and your brow and your lids down unless you're sad. Your lids down and your brow up that way usually indicates somebody's sad. This going immediately to worst case makes us all feel like knows the girl's dead. But if you have been in prison a few times, if you've been in trouble and things typically go badly for you, you might assume that they're all going to go bad for you. So try to read what a person's been through, and that gets you the next piece. And that's what I got.
Excellent.
I can't imagine how you've been feeling these past couple days.
Yeah, it's been rough, but we believe in resurrection. Never seen so many Christians in one place in my life, like I say. That's pretty awesome to see that. And I just hope God in His mercies will deliver someone home to us.
We good?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
We really miss her very much. She was the angel of blessing. The love of our life. She's what made our world go around.
All right, Greg, what do you got?
So the first thing that jumps off the plate to me, and we have to take this into account, and Chase, you're going to talk about some of this in great detail, but is lack of forehead involvement. She doesn't use her forehead much at all. Now, the one thing we know is that people who are not interested in social engagement don't use their forehead much, because that's the way we signal each other. I think it was Desmond Morris who called it billboard of emotion or billboard of something. And so it's a way for me to connect with you across the room. She doesn't do much of that. She's also doing a lot of internal conversation, or what I assume is internal conversation, is she's over here and just kind of rolling through what should I say. At one point when she is saying she was our little...
We really miss her very much. She was the angel, our blessing.
She almost says something else, I think, before she says angel, because she says later she would keep the boys in line and that kind of thing. But if you're talking about a child who has disappeared, you certainly don't want to disparage them if you love them and care. Usually people who are disparaging are the people who hated the person who is gone, and just like our last week's guest who's saying how bad his wife was and how badly she beat him. Usually you don't disparage, and so you look for better words about the person. She does a double shoulder rise, kind of in helplessness at one point in here. And then she goes back to, she does make eye contact one time. I typically think of looking at mood in addition to body language. We talk a lot about body language, but if you think about energy, focus, and direction for a person, you can think a lot about all the rest of the stuff is painting on a palette. In her case, all of her energy is internally focused. It's low, and her alignment is scattered. She's all over the place with her mind. That typically I associate with confusion. Now, you can paint a lot of things on top of the confusion palette, but that's the way I look at it. And what I see here is that. If, on the other hand, if she were low, external, and scattered, or low, external, and focused, I would say now she's secretive because she's paying attention to something that's coming. Don't see that. Here's what I see. Now, realize this is a baseline for her and our first time seeing her. So we'll go from there. Chase, what do you got? We remembered.
Well, it happens to other people.
All right. He just over there just selling that, man. Just, oh, that was awesome.
I only knew because I started out with, I didn't really get to see this video, and Scott goes,
Well, I was starting to laugh, and I wondered if you were saying something horrific. And I was laughing.
oh, man.
All right.
That's a good one.
I think in this video we're seeing, let's just talk about the verbals in this video instead of the nonverbals. Everything that's being said here is in past tense, as if the likes and dislikes and who the daughter is no longer a current reality.
She was...
And I think that's interesting. And we're talking about her facial movement. I think what we're seeing here, I'm not a doctor, but I did spend 8 years studying neuroscience at some kind of cool university. However, I think what we're seeing here is late stage Bell's palsy, which is some damage or a problem with the seventh cranial nerve that affects one side of the face, where you see this paralysis. And you start to see some of that paralysis in the side of her face. I think you can see it in the development of her cheekbones. But I will give you a PSA. If these symptoms are sudden onset, Bell's palsy is a sudden onset disorder, much like a stroke. So if you see some symptoms where somebody's face is paralyzed, but they are able to move their forehead, you should treat it like a stroke immediately. Scott, what do you got?
All right. I agree with you a lot on that. We're not seeing a whole lot of facial movement in this, and it is a little bit odd. It's a little bit wonky looking when you start paying attention to it. Again, here, she looks worn out. She looks sleepy. She looks like she's been going through a lot, which obviously she looks worried. And I think the behavior we're seeing shows that. One thing that I'm not seeing that would show me deception is sort of what Greg was getting to a minute ago. They're not talking to each other. They're not looking at each other, checking with each other, checking each other's looks or what they're saying. Like in the last two fake plea videos, we see a lot of that stuff, checking each other out, seeing what they're saying, eyes directly looking at that person. Here, we're not seeing that. We're not seeing them, in other words, touch base on what I'm saying. Is that okay so far? None of that. I think that single eyebrow raise is actually an illustrator, because illustrators is how your brain emphasizes specific words or phrases, like I just did then, specific words or phrases. So since she doesn't do that much at all, I think that's what her eyebrow is doing. I think it's doing that to act as an illustrator. And her eyes are sort of like an illustrator, but an enhancer when those eyes go up real big. And that's how she expresses that that's important or it's a big deal. The shoulder shrugs, I think, are just something where she's trying to express, she's looking for words to express how she feels, but she doesn't have the words. I don't think she has the words. So I think that's what we're seeing there. This is going.
Yeah, honestly, you guys, I think she was medicated there, whether it be something she was supposed to be on via a doctor because of the trauma they were going through at that time, or, you know, they had habits that they dealt with before Summer went missing. It could be some of that too, to keep her calm, because she definitely had some issues with staying calm during this period of time. And anytime she did an interview, she was very stressed out about it. So she very well could be sedated in some way, maybe on Valium or something like that to keep her calm. That's my opinion. You know, I'm not saying that's what it actually was, but that's what I thought it was from the beginning. Thank you, Andy.
It's odd what we're seeing, fairly odd compared to what we're used to seeing. So, Greg, what do you got? Or Mark, what do you got? Sorry.
Interesting, Greg, that you talk about the mood there. I think that's a nice thing to look at. Emotions, heightened emotions will last kind of maximum 10 minutes. It's about all the body can really stand of a heightened emotion. Moods can go on for hours. If moods go on for days, we often call them affective disorders. They're a little more than a mood. There's maybe something more up. What's interesting with this is the mood of the male and the female are very, very similar. They seem to kind of fit together. We've got.
Yes, I saw that, Butterfly. We're going to talk about that after we're done. We get through this stuff here for sure. I'll bring her up today for sure.
The male with his arm out, they seem to be quite connected, not only kind of physically, but in their rhythm, in their mood. And that speaks to me about something of a family going on here, a connected family. Now, I know you might have all kinds of information around, you know, this family, but however a family performs, you know, now and again, they seem to be performing really together at this point. So that's an interesting data point. You know, as said before, we've often seen in other films of videos of families dealing with this kind of situation, two very disparate people, different rhythms, disconnected from each other. Doesn't seem the case here. I think you're right, Scott, searching for these words. There's a lot of confusion there, a lot of difficulty finding the words, but she does find the metaphor, which is she's what made our world go around.
She's what made our world go around.
It's that idea of the world has now stopped. That's a big, strong image that the child has gone, the world has now stopped.
She's what made our world go around.
And I would expect that metaphor with real grief. So although we might not be seeing it in the face here, the metaphor speaks to me of a real massive change in life. The world has literally stopped. It stopped turning. Life as they know it is not the same. So that's quite powerful, I think. Everything stopped. It's shock, it's confusion, it's devastation. There, that's what I got for you.
We really miss her very much. She was the angel, our blessing. The love of our life. She's what made our world go around.
Let's move on.
And can you tell us a little bit, what Summer was doing that afternoon or that evening?
She was planting flowers with her mother and her grandmother, and she wanted to go into the house. So my wife watched her go into the door, and she went into the house, and the boys were on the internet, of course, and she wanted to go downstairs and play with her toys. So when her mother come in, she says, "Where's Summer?" She went down in the basement. She didn't answer, so she went down there, and she was gone. So she went out the basement door, which was unlocked, and we haven't seen her since.
All right. Greg, what do you got?
One interesting thing throughout everything we're going to see this guy do is that he has the same cadence almost exactly throughout every interview he's done, which is interesting for me because it makes me think, okay, that's kind of a baseline for him. Yeah, it's slow, it's drawling and that kind of thing, but that's how he speaks. In this storytelling, you cannot miss that he's storytelling because his cadence changes. If you pay attention, When he goes into storytelling mode and he said, I was not home when this happened, and then he starts down this third party story, and you can tell he's repeating what he's been told.
She was planting flowers with her mother and her grandmother, and she wanted to go into the house. So my wife watched her go into the door, and she went into the house, and the boys were on the internet, of course, and she wanted to go downstairs and play with her toys. So when her mother come in, she says, where's Summer? She went down in the basement. She didn't answer, so she went down there, and she was gone. So she went out the basement door, which was unlocked, and we haven't seen her since.
That's all he's got. Not a single verbal bridge, and then after that, just walks through the details. And I am having a hard time. I'm looking at him because his brow is up in the center, his mouth is down, his lids are low, but he's also out in the sun. So I'm not going to read everything into it. I am going to say he's gripping his kid. He's got that same thing where he's gripping him and he's adapting. If this were he was home and he was telling me this story, I would probably call it a red flag because the cadence changes. But knowing that he's heard this second, third hand, so no big deal. However, it is with that and blink rates and all of that, we have to look for positives as well. He's illustrating with his right hand. Now, he can't with his left hand, but he is illustrating the story with his right hand. And you see what, Chase, I think you would call body narration when he's moving around a little bit as well, trying to get the message across. And then he does a sour taste, as you would say, Mark. It's hard to tell with all the facial hair. But he does a sour taste and shakes his head like this when he's saying she was gone. And so you would expect that's negative and negative. And, a lot of people would say shaking his head no when he's telling you something that doesn't mean, that means that it's a lie. We all know that's not the truth. We know that we're looking for it to match the message he's delivering. And Chase, I think you had a great one recently where the guy went like this for yes and like this for no. That's a big deal. But if the guy's saying it was a bad thing and he does that, then you expect it to be something different.
Right.
Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, so I would say, again, tongue grooming before speaking. So for me, I think that, these little bits of tongue action that we see always before he speaks is just, he always prepares like that. I don't think we're seeing any kind of preparation around potential deceit or anything that you might read on the internet about lip licking or tongue juts or whatever. I think, again, it's kind of baseline for him. He'd probably do the same at church when he gets up to speak. The boys were on the internet, of course.
The boys were on the internet, of course.
Kind of interested by that. Is that about, is that an alibi? Is that about, well, aren't they, a sense of annoyance around kids always being on the internet? That of course, is of interest. Why are you trying to point that out? So I'm keeping my eyes and ears open around that piece there. On the whole, he's forward and agreeable. When I turn the sound off, although we get some of these head shakes, which are about very specific things, he's very forward. He's very agreeable. He's not displaying many of the things that we've seen in the past when we know or suspect that somebody is trying to hold back information. And especially in this case, I agree, Greg, he is taking us through the story that he's heard from his wife. And from what I've heard of her story, it really doesn't deviate from that at all, which makes me feel like he doesn't feel like he needs to add anything. He kind of thinks it's good as it is. It's good enough. That story that does the job, whatever job that's meant to do, that does the job. He doesn't need to add anything. He doesn't need to take anything away from it.
They're seeing deception on is trying to hold back the information that they've been given about whatever that situation may be. I know we all discussed this a little bit earlier. So that's what I'm seeing there. Other than that, I think we're seeing them be honest. And we got those red flags there at the end. That still bothers me. But after this, I think overall we're seeing truth here, them being truthful and being honest. I think we're seeing their normal behavior, especially in a situation like this. I think they're acting normally. Greg, what do you got?
Yeah, so I'm going to take you down the path of an interrogator. I've interrogated a lot of people. When people give you too much information about a story, let me tell you what they don't give you too much of. Names of other people who could corroborate their story. They don't include the grandmother and the 3 boys and to go through the whole process before the kid disappears. She was over at the swing. I went away to do something. I came back and she's gone, is how people typically lie. Omission, leave it out. They don't parade the child in front of 3 kids that the TBI is going to talk to and the grandmother that the TBI is going to talk to. Have the whole story about Candy and all that. It's not the kind of too much information you typically get. You get too much information about she stubbed her toe and they take you away and they chaff and redirect. I can't imagine
Welcome, Court TV. Thank you for joining us today. I appreciate you very much.
And that someone who has had a run-in with the law, who's trying to hide something, would say, hey, let's include the kids. Let's include this. Let's include that. It just doesn't make sense. So while I see a lot of red flags in normal behavior, remember, I've been in trouble with the police and I'm under high scrutiny. It doesn't matter if it was a long time ago. That's still there. And I'm missing a kid. And I just had some domestic issues recently. All that's going to raise your fight or flight. I watched his cadence throughout this whole thing. It was pretty damn consistent throughout the whole show. Now, I'll also say her red flag was probably the most disturbing. But as you said, Chase, it can turn off all kinds of emotions. Drugs can. And so let's leave it at that. I'm going to say we're mostly seeing truth. And I will say this, if they're lying to us, wow. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. All right. Well, if you like what we're doing, please subscribe. All you got to do is hit that little red thing down there where Mark is. Point down there. There you go. Near his cup. And then hit the little bell that shows up. They'll let you know when we have a new one out. They always come out on Thursdays. And just subscribe. All right. This is a good one, fellas.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Thanks so much. And I'll see you next time.
Yeah.
All right. All right.
Did you ever try to commit suicide or anything after this happened? Just go into a deep depression?
I'm sorry?
Did Candace, you know, the mom, that's her name, right?
She made some comments about it at some point, but I don't know if it was real. You know, it's hard to tell. I hope it wasn't. I'll say that. Welcome, Don't F with Unicorns and Court TV. Thank you for joining us today. Nagat, I can't pronounce your name, but welcome. Thank you for joining us. So you know, I like the guys from Behavior Panel a lot. So I wanted to see what their take was on that. And there's one more thing here.
Was there a window downstairs? I can't remember.
They were kind of boarded up a little bit, I think. Now, this next one, guys, is just Dawn. Okay. That right, SRB. It's hard to take them sometimes. Now, this next one it's the Behavior Panel. This was a little different, and this is the one I want you guys to see for sure. I wanted you to see them both, but this one, I personally have seen things that are interesting to me. Welcome, Leandra. Kimber, immediately, please hit that button. Just kidding. That's what she said there was cute. But I think Dawn, when they do an interview with Dawn separate from Candace, it's different. I don't know. You guys, I want your opinion on it, but this one is a little bit more interesting to me than the last one was. I'll just put it that way.
Is this before or after the last one?
This was 2 years. It was around the same period of time, roughly.
Okay.
They state what they do is not. Yeah, it's not an exact science, but I mean, I have a respect for these guys. They have credentials, they have education, so I kind of listen to them a bit. You know what I mean? Oh yeah, I got 2 puppies in the background. Definitely. Thank you. I have a Jack Russell Chihuahua and a... What did you say my dog was again, Terry?
It is a Yorkie and a Shih Tzu, so it's a short.
There we go. A Shorkie. There we go. We weren't sure, but thank you again, Court TV. Pekingese, Shorkie. It looks a little bit like both, but he's adorable.
Like
I call him
baby Chewbacca.
Yeah, that's what I'm dressing him up
bears. For. You know the little bears that were on steroids.
He's gonna be dressed up as Chewbacca for Halloween. So I call him the dust mop because that's what he reminds me of. If you put a little stick on his back and drug him around, he looked like a little dust mop. So Yeah, the guy on the panel said he did write 10 books. There's 2 of them up there that I have a lot of respect for. Hey, Jody, good to see you. The white one that bounces, you'll see him bounce. He's the Jack Russell, or an Ewok. Good point, Kimber. All right, guys. And again, I want your opinions on these. We're going to talk about this afterwards. Thank you, SRB. And Milo's the white one, and Alfred or Alfie is the little dust mop. So.
Quit it, Chase. I look away. I know. If you do something, it's going to make me go. Come on, sir. Okay. All right. Not long ago, we interviewed Don Wells about his daughter, Summer, who's missing. And we got to go to Greg and I went to Kingsport. We all 4 couldn't go. And the only 2 that could go were Greg and I. So we had a little meeting and we got all of our questions together and decided how we'd approach this. So what you're going to be seeing as we interview him, as you saw if you've watched the interview with him, like Greg always says, it's just the tip of the spear. That's all we were. Well, we were representing all 4 of us. So that's real important to know. And as we go through these, we're not going to go through every section of the interview, just the parts that we think are important that people are going to look at and go, oh, this means this, and oh, that means that, when we'll find out if those actually do mean that or not. Greg, you want to add anything to this?
Yeah, so a couple of things. We met this guy in a hotel. This is not an interrogation room. We don't have badges. We don't have handcuffs. We don't have any of that kind of control. Number one, we want to mention that. Number 2, the guy came there willingly and stayed as long as we talked to him and finally left. I will tell you that at least 33% of people will be disappointed with our conclusion no matter what we come up with during this. This is a very serious case. We cannot say the name Summer Wells is missing enough times. She's still missing. We don't know what happened to her, and we really need everyone to pay attention to that. We'll flash up her information. As we went through this, we had our own ideas, and we have to overcome those. Any bias you have in your head, you have to come up with that. The other thing is to remember, like I always say, if you're interrogating someone, you have absolute control. You can do a lot of things you can't do when you're sitting face to face with someone. And to Scott's point, if you start pounding the desk and saying, where's this person? Well, guess what? This will be a really short interview. So a little bit different questioning technique, a little bit different style. And you'll also realize the guy, when he first came in, said to us, look, I don't talk really well. So he wanted to be comfortable, and we want to make sure he's comfortable, and he was more than willing to participate, and we appreciate that from this family. Our intent is to get as much information out about Summer Wells as we possibly can. So you hear us use her name at every turn. That's it.
Yeah, sometimes you'll see us laughing along with Don. We're trying to, at the beginning of that, we're creating rapport, getting him to like us and want to tell us that so he feels safe. And some of these videos he's going to look a little bit nervous, especially at the beginning as we get the baseline videos, because at that point he hasn't really connected with us yet. He can't tell. He's been stung a couple times. People come out and do it with an agenda that he wasn't aware of in their video, and it came out later and didn't look too good for him. But so as we go through this, remember that's the way this looks. Also, let me add that day Don had his ears were stopped up, and they really were, because sometimes we'll ask him a question, he'll say, what? And people go, oh, this is where he's busted. He couldn't hear. We talked to him out in the parking lot before that for 5-10 minutes, and he was everything, because he couldn't hear well, and he kept saying, listen, my ears are clogged up. So when you see that, it's not him being shocked by the question. He just didn't hear it. He couldn't hear him. We know the difference in those two, the way those look. So just so you know. And he prefaced it with that, and we went in knowing that. So, all right, you guys ready?
Let's go.
Here we go. How long does the Saturday school last for the kids?
We'll be there at 9:30. Well, we go to our first class. It runs about an hour and a half, and then we go to the big room together.
And the kids are separated from everybody?
Yeah, at the first class, and then we all join together in the big room. And
so they have different. I guess you got different teachers.
Yeah, like Robin and other ones that teach the younger ones, and there's a lot of kids there. They're extremely happy.
Yeah. How many classes are there, do you think?
Well, you got your younger kids, and then you got your. I'd say there's about 3 or 4 different classes and age groups.
Are all the girls and boys that are at Summer's age are in the same class?
Yes.
Who teaches that class? Do they have
I can't remember her name. I know Robin. I think maybe Robin teaches the youngest ones.
Yeah. So she was her teacher.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and that's why she was so proud, to give Robin that little yellow necklace and the bracelet.
All right, Mark, why don't you go first?
Yeah, so I'm going to talk here about what I think he's very good at, because if you look across the interview on a whole, you're going to go, he seems to not know some details, but he knows the details he knows, and he doesn't know the details that he doesn't know. And what he does seem to know pretty well is spatially, like he can tell distance, and he knows if something's, the big room. Maybe can't name the room, but it's the big room. So not good at knowing the names of kind of, or the classes that people will be in. So you get a little micro shoulder shrug on that, even when he mentions, the buckets that people are put in, the partitions that they're put in, he's not quite sure. So as a baseline, we've kind of got to go, there's stuff that he's going to know, and we'll get downward intonation, and we'll get a lot of certainty. And there's stuff that that he just won't know. And some of the stuff he won't know, you and I might go, well, why don't you know that? Like, how come you don't know how old your kids are? Well, just so you know, it takes me ages to work out how old my kids are. Okay. And I love my kids and I've spent my whole life with my kids. Okay. I would consider myself a pretty good father. And if you go, how old are your kids? I go, oh, because I have dyslexia and numbers are really hard. Now, I don't know what medications Don is on. I don't know what learning difficulties he may or may not have. That would take a different type of interview. But I have to put into this that he won't necessarily not know things because he's covering stuff up. He's just going to not know stuff because that's not the stuff that he knows. Now, what he does come with is the idea of being proud. Okay, so an emotional idea. And he illustrates that, clearly demonstrates the pride there of the yellow necklace, the bracelet. Oh, and they're extremely happy. Again, happiness, pride. So he's able to access the idea of other people having emotions. That can be quite important. And he knows the stuff that he knows. I'm going to leave it at that. Chase, what do you got for us?
Yeah, I agree with you on this baseline development here. We're starting to see that it's common, even in the other videos and the rest of this video, that Don starts to answer a question before Scott or Greg was finished asking a question, just because he's got the gist of it. He says, oh, I understand what this question is. I'm just going to go ahead and start answering. So that's a baseline behavior for him. And there's a lot of illustrations and body narrations here. He's talking about the necklace, this bracelet, and we're starting now to see this tendency with his eyes, more specifically his blinking. And when Don is processing data, when he's trying harder to come up with something or to remember the specific details while he's talking, his blink rate is very quick. So there's an eye flutter there. So the more confident he is with the information, the less often he blinks. So we see one thing when he's really confident about something that he's talking about, there's a marked lowering in how often Don blinks in here. So those are the two things I'd like to just point out in the baseline. Scott?
All right. As I'm asking these questions, I've got my arms open like this, and my questions are going, and I'll stop them halfway through the question and hoping he'll pick up on what I'm saying, and then I'll move to further into that question. So it keeps him on his toes to be paying attention. So it feels like, even though he's been asked these questions before, if he has been, then he'll be trying to take in that information to make sure that this is the first time he's been asked that question before. We are seeing those things where he's unsure. Both you guys nailed that, and he's not sure because he doesn't know. He hasn't been in-depth thought about those things. So he's just relaying information. He's not comfortable with us yet. He's really not in with us yet. So he's a little not standoffish, but he's a little bit he's holding back just a touch. But at the same time, the innocence and the eyes up and all that. This isn't. I mean, Don's a great guy, but he's not the most innocent guy in the whole wide world. So it's in that position, having a camera on you, being accused of something like this. A lot of people have accused him of it. Nobody in law enforcement has. That's going to make him act that way as well. So he's going to be a little bit standoffish and worrying about how he looks to us, especially since he knows who we are and what we do. And that's the reason we're there specifically to do that. So, but I think he's holding up pretty good so far in this part. And you're right, Mark. We see a couple of things that let us know he's not sure. And it's not deception. I'm not seeing any deception in here whatsoever when it comes to these answers. I'm just seeing him be unsure. Greg, what do you got?
Yeah, so let's walk down the same path. We start off looking at a factual presentation. We ask the right questions to get him to give us facts, just facts. There's no reason for him to tell us anything stupid. So we're looking for information about how he processes information. Mark, love the fact you picked up on the pride. He's talking about this jewelry. His chin rises even to show pride. That's what we typically associate with pride. When he's accessing, and Chase, I'm with you, the blink rate is an indicator of processing. And he only answers questions that he's picked up on. If he doesn't truly understand the question, we'll see him stop, condition the question, maybe ask my house. We'll see it more than one time in here. But when he does understand the question, he just spits out facts and he gives you what he's got. Now, sometimes his understanding of the question may be tainted and some of that. And Scott, I would also say this. You see us behaving differently there than you see us behaving here. I told you I got all these wrinkles on my forehead from using my forehead, and I don't do it a lot here except for to show you what things look like. But when I'm talking to someone, I'm constantly twisting my forehead and looking at them, and you'll be able to pick our body language up as well going through this. This is a good opportunity for us to see what's normal for him with little stress. And Scott's dead on when he came into the place. He was stressed. He knows what we do, and he came in to talk to us. I'll leave it at that.
All right.
How long does the Saturday school last for the kids? We'll be there at 9:30. Well, we go to our first class. It runs about an hour and a half, and then we go to the big room together.
And the kids are separated from everybody?
Yeah, the first class, and then we all join together in the big room. And
so they have different. I guess you got different teachers.
Yeah, like Robin and other ones that teach the younger ones, and there's a lot of kids there. They're extremely happy.
Yeah. How many classes are there, do you think?
Well, you got your younger kids, and then you got your. I'd say there's about 3 or 4 different classes and age groups.
Are all the girls and boys that are at Summer's age are in the same class?
Yes.
Who teaches that class? Do they have a
I can't remember her name. I know Robin. I think maybe Robin teaches the youngest ones.
Yeah, so she was her teacher.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and that's why she was so proud, to give Robin that little yellow necklace and the bracelet.
Let's move forward then.
And did he ever teach him or anything? Did he ever do
David?
Yeah.
Our pastor?
Yeah.
No,
you're talking about David.
Okay, you got David Dawson, and you got David, our pastor.
David the pastor, yeah.
The pastor. He teaches the adults, like I would go to his class, and my wife, the older ones, and he's got an awesome class. Love it. Absolutely love it.
But never kid, never.
Thank you, Mom. Appreciate you being here very much.
Work with the youth group or anything?
Not the pastor. I don't know what he teaches in their school. I'm not familiar with that too much. I've been there, but I don't know. Yeah.
All right, Greg, what do you got?
Yeah, here if we watch him, he uses illustrators. I would go. He walks through and he's focused on what you're asking, but he's also trying to give you information. He's talking to Scott, trying to give him information. You'll notice that brow rise and him look at him and then look at me to see that we're perceiving. There's nothing to hide, but this is his request for approval, his chance to look and see if we are agreeing with what he's saying or understanding what he's saying. There's no reason to agree. We just need to understand. His blink rate, again, you see the processor speed come in, as you would call it, Chase. As he gets to something where he needs to think, his processor speed starts to go into overdrive, and then he nods for affirmation to see if you're getting it. A lot of eye contact with both me and Scott, looking to make sure that we're understanding what he's saying. Not yet understanding why we're asking this. If you ask him, I guarantee he wouldn't have said they're trying to get a baseline. He would have said they're digging for something. And when you ask a person a question, they first internalize that question, understand what it means before they try to answer it. And we're seeing that. Chase, what do you got?
Yeah, I agree with you. These are the baseline questions. So we're seeing a little bit more of the blinking as they're just kind of getting close to any of these parts of the story that require some processing speed. And what Greg and Scott are doing here is very common in interview and interrogation. I think it should be way more common in employment screenings when somebody's going up for a job. But this baseline is a critical part of a conversation where I'm understanding how does this human being behave when they're not under stress, they're not being accused, and they're answering things that are truthful and that I can prove to be true. And we're looking for that behavior. So just as an aside to this, if you were an interrogator or a job interviewer, you're in the business of talking to people and detecting deception, change is more important than understanding, like, here's what crossed arms mean, here's what genital covering means. Looking for changes and deviations in that person's behavior is a big deal. Somebody says scratching your nose is a lie or deceptive behavior. If someone scratches their nose all the time they're probably being deceptive is when they stop. So we're looking for changes more than just these singular behaviors.
And that's a great definition of baseline Chase just gave you.
That's it. Yeah.
It.
And so, and this is kind of Greg and Scott continuing to probe a little bit. And for most people, it would just sound like, okay, they're just asking this ancillary information to start building an idea, a story, a narrative, and an understanding of this environment. And we're seeing Don still on baseline. He's comfortable illustrating. So keep that in mind as we're going forward. He's comfortable illustrating with his hands. He's showing things. He's pointing and he's using his body to show the story. Mark?
Yeah, so often if I'll interview people, I will try and get them to be emotional, try and get them to use emotional words, eventually try and get them to self-reflect, talk about themselves and see how they manage that. What's really interesting about this is he's going again by himself into emotional areas. I love it. It's awesome. Talking about the class. Now you might say, and you'd have every right to say this, well, maybe he's putting that on. Maybe he's trying to put up a front. Maybe he wants to project this mask to us of being involved in the church. I don't get that from the way he says it. It's quite understated. It has downward inflection to it. He doesn't look for approval on that. It has a lot of earmarks for me that suggest he's being honest about he does love it. It is awesome. And that's something we might expect with somebody who is trying to find a new community. If you're going to buy into that narrative that he puts forward, and I'm not saying you should. If anything, I'm trying to give you some other ideas to go with here because you already have your biases and that's okay. But what if I'm right? I mean, you could say, hey, Mark, you don't know anything. You're not right at all. That's okay. You can do that. But what if I'm right? Because if you're wrong early on, if your ship is a degree off of meaning at the start of your journey, you're so far off as you've gone down this narrative. So what I would suggest is, as we go through this, just close up your ideas a little bit, make them a little more lean, a little less extreme right at the start, and you might be able to hit the target at the end rather than being way, way off. So I'm going to say, when he says, I love it, it's awesome, that he's being honest about that. You could prove me wrong in the end, but I'm going to go with he's being genuine about that. Scott, what do you got for us?
All right. One of the most important things we wanted to get to was finding out when he was explaining something, if he was doing it for the first time, if he was making something up. So the part about the confusion between that we discussed there was trying to have him spit that. So I don't know what's going on. Were you talking about this guy or this guy? Because we knew there were two with the same name. So as we went in, we wanted to make sure that we got that his explanation of things. So
I believe it was after the Dr. Phil show, Unicorns.
And we were confused how he would look when he was explaining things to us. But then again, he was so open. This was filmed a little bit after, I believe it was after he cried a little bit, wasn't it, Greg?
Yes. Yep.
That's why his eyes are watery like that. So, and he's coming down from an emotional, or trying to come back up from an emotional down at this point. But so we got a good handle on his baseline for explaining something he thinks we're confused about. So if we don't understand something he's explaining it for the first time as he was there in that explanation, we'll know. If it were to get sticky and we'd start talking about some other specifics that we need to know about, as he said this before, is he making it up? That was the reasoning behind that. So you guys covered everything else. All right.
Hey, one thing to point out, Scott, I think it's important because this is a long video. We're not going to cover every interaction we had with him. A couple of things to point out. Number one, Don does have a checkered past. I mean, I'm not going to try to defend this guy for whatever is going on in his past, but every one of those things, no matter what you say, may or may not be true. We don't know all the details. That still doesn't mean that he did this. That's the reason we went to find out what he knew about Summer Wells, not to figure out what his past was. We were digging for something specific. And so as you're watching this, and I don't think we're going to cover him crying today. I pushed him to an emotional state intentionally to see him cry. I asked him one time, how do I get to your house? A very open-ended question. And you could see the confusion in his face about, what are you asking? We did that intentionally because we're trying to get, what does he do when he's embarrassed? What does he do when he's, when he is confused? And then when you start digging into questions, that body language should come back. So we'll talk about it as it comes up.
And did you ever teach him or anything? Did you ever do
David?
Yeah.
Our pastor?
Yeah.
No, you about David. Okay, you got David Dawson, and you got David, our pastor.
David, the pastor, yeah.
The pastor. Yeah. He teaches the adults, like I would go to his class, and my wife, the older ones, and he's got an awesome class. Love it. Absolutely love it.
But never kid, you never worked with the youth group or anything?
Not the pastor. I don't know what he teaches in their school.
No,
I'm not familiar with that too much. I've been there, but I don't know. Yeah.
Are we good?
Yes.
All right. And he starts, coming with excuses why he can't make it to work. So, and giving me trouble. And then the day I fired him, he was, doing a pan like that there. Okay. Mm-hmm. And he spent probably 2 hours on it. Well, it sure took 20 minutes to coat that with mud, first coat. And we were supposed to do something else, and he just jumped on that, and he was speaking under his breath and just carrying on. And then he comes to me with a pan of mud, and he says, there's all kind of trash in there. Get it out there and give me some different mud. So I was like, oh, okay. I threw it away and got him some fresh mud, and he come back at me again. He's like screaming at me, I told you, did you put it back in there or what? And
you're familiar with that kind of behavior for somebody else like that? Would seem like that was kind of
I looked on YouTube of all the behavior that somebody on meth would have. The only one I can remember is hyperactive.
Sure.
But but he was screaming at me, just go home. I'll take care of this job. I got this job. I'll handle it by myself or whatever. And I thought about that, and I went to lunch. And I come back, and I don't believe. You get off the job. Don't want to work with you one more second. And he didn't like that too well.
All right, Chase, what do you got?
So right here, he goes to about noon or 1 o'clock if we're looking at him with his eyes, while he's talking about watching this YouTube video. This is a very vital data point for any interrogator. Not that I'm relying on some chart from 1970 of where the eyes move and what it means. I'm relying on what I just observed. He was recalling looking at something, and that's where his eyes go. I'm going to make a note of that. And then if I'm asking him to describe something visual or something where he has to recall visual data in the future, and I see somewhere different, and I see him, and it could be a guilt question that he looks a different direction, that is a huge red flag for me. There's equal eye contact to both Greg and Scott during his entire answers. There's a wonderful establishment of some form of baseline here. And he demonstrates a lot of comfort with his body illustration. He's showing stuff with his body. He's showing this thing, this drywall pan, and pointing it up in the room that you guys were in. He's showing the bucket with the mud in it and talking about when he threw it away. And he shakes his head while he's speaking about things that he's disagreeing about. So he's saying this guy was speaking under his breath and carrying on, and he's shaking his head during that. And then he's nodding while speaking about something that he took a stand against this guy, which is a wonderful piece of baseline. He's nodding during positive things, and when he wants you to agree, he's shaking his head during things where he's disagreeing or in some kind of disagreement with what he's speaking about. I'll leave it at that. Greg?
Yeah, this guy's telling a story and he's illustrating. This is, I'm going to guess if you're his friend and you're hanging out with him, well, we know that if we've talked to him twice and we know that this guy has a storytelling kind of personality. He's using references, that pan right there. He's giving you a reference. He's telling a story using his hands. He's illustrating these things that punctuate your words or thoughts. He's moving his hands to make points. He's making things bigger or smaller. He's using a lot of words that we don't hear him use in other cases. He does some downright eye accessing when he's talking about the guy. Chase is talking about up left as he's speaking about something he visually remembers. And then he does some down right, which we typically associate with emotion. So he's thinking as he's telling the story and he's giving out information. The cadence of his speech is a little more lilting as he's telling the story and telling you something and giving you a frame of reference for one of these guys. I told Scott it's a little bit like ghost stories when he's telling you all these different people he thinks may have done something, because he's trying to give you his thoughts and illustrate it with enough words to make it fit. Now, when we start to ask him stories about a question that we start asking questions about the story, Candace's story, if he doesn't have that same level of detail, it's going to automatically make people jump to red flags. If it's secondhand story, it'll be a different way of telling, but this is him telling something that happened to him, and I believe it happened to him. It's easy to follow his baseline. Scott, what do you got?
As he was fairly comfortable talking about this, his illustrators were open. He was very fluid with this. He was loping as he talked, and loping, so he just kind of go right along, and everything sounds just fine, sounds the way it should. No deception in here anywhere. No need to be for any deception in here. Everything looked the way it should look. Everything sounded the way it should sound, and we weren't getting any pushback from him on this kind of thing. Obviously, for this we wouldn't. But he was, as he went into details of stuff, again, great for baseline as he starts telling about things he's experienced and is giving us that information. Because I don't think he's told anybody for the first time the things he found on the internet about drug use. You know, I don't think that would be new to him. So that was the only part where I know I did, and I'm pretty sure Greg did too. Or like, you're telling us about that, and where he may have in his past have experienced those things. I don't know how to word it differently. I can be completely wrong. Don't know. But that's the only one I made sure to pay attention to, so I could know if that came up again, a situation, I would recognize those cues as we went through. All right, Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, so absolutely right. Couldn't agree more. He's creating a story here. You've got all the elements of the story. He does it really well. He describes it spatially. He takes on the characters. He does the voices. He does the emotions. So a great baseline as to what he'll do if he's really engaged with a story and he wants to engage you. I think he does the YouTube piece about the meth head because he wants to cast that character as the meth head. And so he goes, look, authority of YouTube, data point of 1, that'll be our meth head in the story. So I think that's what he's kind of, doing there. I think what this says to me is so he says there's an upward inflection right at the start here. I think he wants us to approve of how he handles this situation, and then he describes the situation, and this is really Don's, in my mind, soap opera world, because he quickly gets into this drama that is probably interesting if you're part of it, and if you're outside of that, you might well go, what's this got to do with anything that's going on here? But it is easy to get dragged in, isn't it? It's easy to get dragged in and go, okay, there's a method involved, is there? A bit of violence going on. And he's pretty good at doing, that he was getting quite aggressive because he rubs his nose there. I think that's because he's actually getting heated himself. You'll often see people do that when they're getting aggressive because blood will rush to the nose. So I think he easily draws us, probably unconsciously, into this soap opera world that he's got of drama going on. And to an extent, we need to resist that a little bit because, again, we might end up getting dragged down exactly the wrong narrative here. And we've got to keep open to where the real facts might be or the real information might be as to, well, what's happening with Summer. That's all I got for you.
Okay.
And he started.
Barbara McGill, thank you so very much for your donation. God bless. We definitely appreciate it. It is definitely needed and will be used for the right thing. So thank you so much, Barbara. God bless.
Coming up with excuses why he can't make it to work. So, and giving me trouble. And then the day I fired him, he was, doing a pan like that there. Okay. Mm-hmm. And he spent probably 2 hours on it. But it should have took 20 minutes to coat that with mud, first coat. We was supposed to do something else, and he just jumped on that, and he was speaking under his breath and just carrying on. And then he comes to me with a pan of mud, and he says, there's all kind of trash in there. Get it out of there.
By the way, for those of you that don't know for a fact, who they're talking about, the interview I showed you yesterday with that Dudley guy, that was the guy that he had worked with, that he's got this history they're having this conversation about, just so you guys know. Thank you so much, Miss Barbara. That's amazing. Thank you.
and give me some different mud. So I was like, well, okay. I threw it away, got him some fresh mud, and he come back at me again. He's like screaming at me, I told you, did you put it back in there or what? And
you're familiar with that kind of behavior for somebody like that? Like that? Did it seem like that was kind of
I looked on YouTube of all the behavior that somebody on meth would have. The only one I can remember is hyperactive.
Sure.
But but he was screaming at me, just go home. I'll take care of this job. I got this job. I'll handle it by myself or whatever. And I thought about that, and I went to lunch. And I come back, and I don't believe. Get off the job. Don't want to work with you one more second. And he didn't like that too well.
All right.
Ben, that was Summer happened when Summer disappeared. Where were you working that day?
See, I was in Jonesboro.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jonesboro, which?
Yeah, Jonesboro.
Tennessee?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know this area very well.
Yeah.
How far away is that from home?
Well, it takes 45 minutes to get from there to my house.
Okay.
And so up 81 all the way, and that's where I was working.
All right, Chase, what do you got?
So I think there's eloping that's ever present through a lot of these things. Greg right here is probing for some more baseline and making a couple admissions that, I'm not from here, I don't know the area very well, which helps the other person to open up more. And this actually works. And his baseline is usually different when he's asking someone different types of questions. So we're going to see his eyes move different ways. We're going to see him react different ways to something called episodic memory of events and things that he recalls. And next is spatial and detail. What did the room look like? How big was something? Dialogue of when he spoke to a person. That may not be all the categories. Those are the big three that we can actually pinpoint and look for here pretty easily. Greg and Scott left the silence there for him to keep talking, and it actually worked. You can see how easy this is. Greg and Scott just didn't say, okay, as soon as he became a little bit close to being finished, he continued to speak. When he says up 81, and that's where I was working, he continued to talk to fill in the silence, which is great. And we're looking at both of you guys in your quarter zip fleece. That had to be planned. I'm watching this video wondering about the planning for that. But Scott, I'll pass it to you.
Yeah, we didn't want to go and match like we're twinsies, but it was important to at least have a look at that. From the top part, you had this, but the bottom part, you had jeans that were a little bit old and a little bit. And Greg had on his cowboy boots, and I had on sneakers. So we didn't want to look like we were, FBI agents coming in suits and like, hey, tell me what's going on. He's been dealing with all that.
Of course.
We want to be kind of, so yeah, that's really good, Chase.
I wanted to bring it up just so people would understand why that was important. And you look unified as if you were on a team together. Yeah.
Yep.
There you go.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll talk about that later. Anyway, where's my, so and again, talking about the interrogation part of it, listen to Greg's tone of voice. It's real soft and it's odd for us to see Greg being all calm and soft about something, for a lot of people anyway, not me, and to be so kind as he's saying all these things, especially when somebody in that situation. So pay attention to our approach to these, the way we're talking. You'll see our tones of voices, how you say it, grammatically correct, change as we go throughout this. And our body language will change as well. Right now, we're being very still. We're getting things really, really quiet. The lighting guys did a great job in there because they made it almost feel like a room in there of darkness around this light thing. The stuff we're looking at now will have to be brightened up a little bit because this edit of it is too dark. But we're taking advantage of that. It was really quiet in there. It was a really big room, but it was really small right there. So it gave us that intimate feel with him. And we were just close enough to reach out and touch him. That's what you want to be close enough to do that. Whereas that happened a couple of times in emotional parts of the interview. So our approach to it, I'll talk about that on this end of it, was at this point to be really calm and understanding with him as we're trying to find out this information. Not only because we're trying to get him in a certain mood, we want to see how he reacts to those questions in that mode as well, in that mode that we're in as well. So that was really important. Greg, what do you got?
Yeah. So one thing, I'm talking softer here, you'll notice, because I'm trying to bring him down to a different place, and I'm not trying to threaten. Everyone thinks I'm this mean, scream and yell guy. And we always say, if you're being interrogated that way, you're really not. No one's effective doing that. You should not even realize you're being interrogated. As a matter of fact, the guys with us thought, well, I wish you'd gotten what you wanted when it was over. And we said, oh, trust us, we got what we wanted.
Yeah, we got everything.
Because it was just a conversation. But what I was after here is the first minor probe. This is a probe. Where were you? You know, he's been asked this question 1,000 times, 1,000 times. And as far as I know, TBI and those guys will have cleared his story and said where he's at. So I didn't push too hard to go and find that. But when he said Jonesboro, his eye contact was really high. His blink rate goes way down, if you notice this, because he's certain of what he's saying. And he makes intentional eye breaks occasionally. And he tells me about this 45 minutes. Now, here's something that tells me I've tapped into a part of his brain that knows I'm on a threat question. I hear him start to change his speech pattern. And he goes, And that's where I was. And to your point, Chase, he's trying to figure out what am I after, and he's trying to make sure he satisfies what I'm after. But that and in there proves to me I'd hit.
And understand something, you guys, that when this interview was done at this point, I think this was done before Dr. Phil's show. They had been through quite a few interviews. They started having roundabout issues with people online, so on and so forth, attacking them, so on and so that could be why, you know, he's seeing that Don is doing that. So I don't know, sorry to interrupt.
The right spot with him, and so we're in the right cadence, we're in the right speech pattern, we're the right amount of eye contact, the right amount of silence, and you'll see us use this again as we get deeper into the questioning. We intentionally, I told him they're going to be hard questions I'm going to ask you, and I'll tell you when I'm going to ask you hard questions. And people say, well, you're telegraphing. Yeah, because it creates stress, and that's a wonderful thing to say. I'm about to ask you some hard questions. Well, what are you going to ask? And you can see it in people when you do it. But if you watch him, he's nodding to get agreement, and when he says I'm up 81 all the way, you just should know that when a person changes this way, it means you're tapping into something that's creating stress for them, and it's clear in his case. Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, so it is a stress question. It is where were you the night of? So it's one of the first questions that's going to come in, which has some heat behind it. And you might look at it and you might go, wow, there's a bit of a pause there, and he doesn't seem to remember the name of the place, or, you know, why doesn't that immediately come? Well, the things in his life don't immediately come. The numbers, the things don't immediately come. The space is there for him. He knows that really well. He doesn't access the names of things so well. There's a neural type that goes with that, but I'm not going to diagnose. And by the way, you know, body language can often just be a Rorschach test of you. So I'm going to look at him and I'm going to most likely see me, and you're going to look at him and you're most likely going to see you. So what you've got to do is pick up on some of what I'm saying and go, so is Don more like Mark, or is he more like me? Because I'm also going to engage my critical thinking as well and go, it feels like me. I bet he's a bit like me, and he can't kind of work out the name of things. But what if that isn't true? Perhaps it's not true. So you've got to use these critical thinking ideas of perhaps and maybe. So here's one of those. We see him take a big in-breath on that. And this is a critical question there. And his breathing changes there. Well, I already know this is a critical question. And so I'm already primed to go, oh, I want to check out his breathing, see if that breathing changes. Does he do big breathing, heavy breathing? And on a first glance, he does. But then I go back and look at the baseline, and he doesn't. So you got to keep going back and looking at the baseline.
Absolutely, Miss Barbara.
You know, really far enough off his baseline that I would suggest that he wasn't exactly where he says he was at this point. I think any disruption in this, any deviance from the baseline that we've got, is about, this is a pressure question. This is an institutionalized guy. He knows that when the big questions come, you got to be careful, whatever. Whether you did it or you didn't do it, you've got to be careful. That's what I got for you on that one.
The incident with Summer happened when Summer disappeared. Where were you working that day?
See, I was in Jonesboro.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jonesboro, which?
Yeah, Jonesboro.
Tennessee?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know this area very well.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sherry.
Well, it takes 45 minutes to get from there to my house.
Okay.
And so up 81 all the way, and that's where I was working.
Is there anything about Candace's story that makes you question the story?
No, not the way it played out and everything like that. I mean, yeah, you always have questions, and I'd ask myself, but the way that it happened and her emotions and her state of mind.
What were the questions that you had?
I mean, I don't really have any. I mean, I don't really have any questions. I mean,
Greg, what do you got?
Yeah, so this is a really good example. I had a question, asked the thought. I heard him stammer, stutter. I had a follow-up, and I actually stepped on Scott because Scott was trying to get more information out of him here. If I'd been a little quieter, we would have gotten a little more information. But I think I think he's out of information and was just stammering to stammer. This made me wonder, did he truly believe the story he'd been told? Because what he's telling us is a story that's secondhand. And when he tells us a secondhand story, it's rote memory. It's exactly what you expect from a secondhand story. You'll see him push his tongue out of his lips. Now, his lips are bright ruby red, and we think it's probably because he smokes a fair amount and that kind of thing. But he does lick his lips a lot when he gets under the stressful situation. Means something, maybe, but it is in his baseline. As he's going along, though, he cannot finish an entire thought. Now, he is not the most eloquent speaker, and Don would tell you that himself. I'm not beating him up for the way he speaks, because we all have our own patterns. I have my own very Southern speech pattern. But he stops and stammers and I'm sure, number one, he's got to realize that Candace is going to watch this. Number two, how does it work their stories? So this is a stress moment. We're seeing something in him that causes both Scott and I to want to go, Why can't he answer that question with a simple no? If you asked me if my wife did something, I would have said no. Very simply, this is not a no. This is something much different. Scott, what do you got?
Yeah, that was the point we were both. I was waiting for Greg to jump up his hind end, and he was waiting for me to jump up his hind end. But we knew better than that at that point, because all I was got to do is get up and leave if we leaned into him really hard at that point. And as Loping stops here, Loping's where you're telling the story almost like something loping through a field, like a horse running through a field, that kind of thing. And we're not seeing that here. He's editing as he goes along. He's self-editing in real time. Should I say this? What am I going to say? Then when he decides he didn't have any questions, when I said, well, what kind of questions did you have? And he didn't. And again, notice my tone of voice when we're saying that, because we know this is important. We can say, well, what kind of questions did you have? So we had to say, what kind of questions did you have? Almost like throwing it out there. And when he's answering, as he self-edits, he's thinking, I've got to be cool about this, because you're right, Greg. He's got to go home to his life and his wife and live there. And she's going to be like, what, you don't believe me? The hell are you talking about? You don't believe me. So he's got to deal with that. Knowing that as well, it was the reason for our soft approach. But it's really important in there, because that's when you're right, Greg. That's when we both said, you know what? I'm not so sure he believes what she's saying. And this, we expand on that at another point, but this is a really important part of it, because this is not in his baseline. This is completely out of his baseline. He's really quiet. His eyes, his blink rate goes low. He's licking his lips, but I don't think that's pushing out, sour taste and all that. I don't think that's that at all. I think it's like a tick, like a nervous habit he has. That's why his lips are so slick, from smoking and doing that all the time. So, and licking his lips all the time. I think that's what that's from. So we're not seeing any, I'm not going to say we're not seeing deception in there, because I'm seeing a bunch of red flags there, like 4 of them in a row right there, where he starts slowing down and he's editing. But that really was a point where I go, I'm not so sure he believes what he's saying. And as he's editing himself, I think he knows what he's going to say, but he's chopping it up and pushing things back into rows to make sure everything's straight, so he's good to go. Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, so here's what I think he does know. He says he doesn't have questions about how it played out, the physical time of the narrative, all the stuff that he's good at. He doesn't have any questions around how that story played out, the time span, the space. I don't think he's got a problem with that. He's got no questions around that. The emotions and the state of mind. Now, again, he's talked about emotions in his baseline, and he's pretty good at going, proud and naming emotions and happy. And so those are pretty basic, but that's a good baseline to say, if he thinks he knows that somebody is emotionally in a state, he's already said that he's pretty good at that. He's proved that he's pretty good at that. So he's got no problem with that. He says, you always have questions. So we could bias towards the idea of, maybe he does wonder, is Candace's story correct? Or maybe it's just the idea of, well, until you know something for sure, you always have questions. So there's the idea of mystery always exists, regardless, until mystery is solved. And he says, and I've asked myself. Doesn't really finish that. The question is, what have you asked yourself? Because if you ask it of yourself, is it that, well, I asked myself, could I have done more? Could I have been better? Could I have protected more? In this whole interview, you hear about how unprotected that place is. It's completely exposed, with people coming up, swapping out dogs. Just, I'll take your dog, I'll leave some other dogs there. They come up on horses, all kinds of other stuff, to do stuff and things. And so it's a bit of an odd situation up there. And maybe you would ask yourself, is this really somewhere that, have I really provided the right place? Has my wife, my partner, provided the right place? So it could be that. I question any eye blocks on that. Chase, what are your thoughts on this?
You guys got all the good stuff here. But this video really shows us the power of baseline and how important baseline is. We know Don Wells likes to start questions as soon as he is able to get the gist of what you're asking him. This question was concise, crystal clear, and easily understood. And this amount of hesitation here would be a significant red flag for me in any interview. And I think Don starts to roll down a hill that Scott kind of put him on here, and making him start to speak specifically about what he doesn't believe about the story. Because Scott kind of left a little incomplete question, or just kind of tossed that out. Well, what is it? What is it you question? And just kind of started this ball rolling. And there's an increased blink rate when he's denying that he fully believes Candace's story, or he doesn't have any questions about it. And there's a single shoulder shrug, which indicates a lack of confidence in what a person is saying right at the end here. And if we scored this on the behavioral table of elements for deception, the score would be a 16, with a score of 11, indicating a likelihood of deception to be high.
Is there anything about Candace's story that makes you question the story?
No, not the way it played out and everything like that. I mean, you always have questions, and I'd ask myself, and but the way that it happened and her emotions and her state of mind.
What were the questions that you had?
I mean, I don't really have any. I mean, I don't really have any questions. I mean,
You've got some past. You said recently you've had some drug and alcohol things. Maybe have you? Who in your life would you think is less than above board that you deal with?
who in life has been above board?
Yeah, who's less than above board? If I were saying,
no, not nobody that I know of except for our neighbors and stuff. You know, I mean, the guy, the meth heads and stuff like that, and whatever like that. I mean, we're trying to fly right, and we're trying to do the.
I get it. Right. Life is. I would say life is a challenge between being this and what is underneath.
Okay, and let me back up for a minute with the stepsisters. They said they never knew we had a daughter. 2.5, 3 years ago, I called my dad, and they were there, and they were bragging. You know, I was like, they was asking about Summer, and I was like, yeah, you know, and so they said they named one of theirs Winter. So they knew. They lied when they said they didn't know.
All right, Greg, what do you got?
Yeah. So in this case, we're asking him just some simple questions. Now I just lost my thought. Sorry. Hit that again. I lost it entirely. I had something else on my mind.
Let me edit that out. Greg, what do you got?
Yeah. No, I may have to watch it again. Which one was 2? Oh, yeah. Who's above board? Here we go. There's some comedy for you. So who's less than above board? You see him. He's like, what are you talking? Oh, yeah. I get it. And he does recognition. And he says, and his eyes lock as he's saying this, we try to stay above board. Now, I know, and he said, I've used drugs, I've done this, I've done that. So he knows some people that are less than above board by my standards. And he's probably interpreting what I'm saying. And so you see him making eye contact. And then he goes back to get out one of the stories that he came there to tell. Because clearly Don had stories he wanted to tell. These are the ghost stories I was talking about. He's going to tell you these stories. So he brings up the stepsisters. And you can see it. You can see a change in his code, in his cadence. He starts off when he's trying to figure out what I'm talking about, stammering and stuttering and a little slow, then makes good eye contact. Oh, yeah, we try to stay above board, and then goes back into a storytelling mode. That's what I saw, and I just kind of discounted the sisters thing as just something he needed to get out, and that was that. Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, I would agree completely. Again, you got to be careful you don't get stuck in his soap opera, because this really is a piece of storytelling here. It's a classic. So you got stepsisters, so that instantly tells you that they're going to be cast in the bad light. You're going to have a Cinderella character, the symbol of virtue unrecognized, which is the dirty little waif, and that's Summer. And you're going to have territorial aggression. So you've got fighting over the crown, which is the summer and winter battle that he talks about there. So there's some classics in there of a really good soap opera narrative of family breakdowns and territorial aggression. And so it could, it looks a little bit like a sidestep into that narrative. But I think you're right, Greg. This is a story that he wants to get out. He wants to play that narrative game, that YouTube game, as much as anybody else, that he sees himself as battling against, that if they're going to make up a story, then I reckon I can tell a good story as well. And I would say it's a classic example because he draws down on a universal narrative instantly. If it were a truer story, there'd be more detail and it wouldn't fit so well, that universal narrative. So he just kind of draws down on the classic. And just one last thing is he does that same kind of head turn away and locks eye contact with a challenge gesture there to Greg on this, same as he did with, I think, How'd You Get to Your House? So, when he gets confused, or maybe more likely is worried about the nature of the question and what is this question really about, we see the aggression come out here. And he wants to sidestep this idea of who he's connected with that don't fly right. So an interesting theme that carries on there. He wants to completely take himself away from the names of the people that call by who don't fly right. There, Scott, what do you got on this one?
All right, this is a really interesting one because as we're going through it, he's from the beginning of this, when we started talking to him, he suspects everybody. That's why he's bringing up all these parts by stepsisters and people from YouTube and this and that. He suspects everybody. I mean, Greg, I don't know how many people, I think I counted up to 12 at one point he was talking about, and talked to him the other day, and he was suspected. The guys who came in were, didn't suspect him, but he said, hey, what about these guys that were cutting down the trees in my yard? Could that be the kind of, I'm wondering if that would be. So he's got all these things that say he's concerned and really wondering who did this. That's one thing that stood out to us as we went through this. And so that's the reason he's poking on those stepsisters who said some bad stuff about him, whether it's true or not, I have no idea. But apparently it's been recanted what they said. So probably not true.
Don't know that to be fact, but yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's what he told me anyway. So so as he's going through this, it's really, for me, it's really simple. He doesn't know exactly where we're going in this yet. I mean, he's got a pretty good idea, but when we start asking questions like this that he's not ready for, why would you ever ask something like that? But he starts associating himself. He's using what's called, it's the same language addicts use. You hear Peter Hyatt talking about that, how people who are addicts will talk that way as well, about we try to stay away from, it wasn't I try to do this. It's like we as a group try to stay away from those kind of people. That's where I'll stop there to keep it short. Chase, what do you got?
One thing, we're just talking about the we thing here. Don is, if we divide people into using 3 types of pronouns in their communication, there are people that use self pronouns, team pronouns, and then others in reference to other people. And Don uses a whole lot of team pronouns, even talking about the church, our Sunday school, we like to do this, we like to do this. So always speaking about he and Candace as our, us, we, which I think is a pretty good sign for how he feels about his connection to her at the time that he was answering those questions. And right at the beginning of this clip here, you're going to see him close his eyes almost all the way for a minute to process this question and process the data. So he's really going through his mind. He is honest, I think, about trying to fly right. I think he's 100% honest. But what we don't know is his definition and his relationship to the words fly right, his relationship to the idea of what that means to him. There's this head nodding that we're seeing here is honest. There's comfortable cadence that he's loping here. He's on message. So this, whether or not this is rehearsed does not make it deception. We can rehearse true things all day long. It's like our YouTube intros. They're truthful and very, very rehearsed. So, and he's shaking his head exactly at the point that he's discussing the denial of someone else. So I think this is on message, is truthful, and in an interrogation scenario, and maybe in a regular conversation, this may come in handy. But if someone tries to do this big redirection, I'm going to treat this like when he's backing up to talk about his sisters, I will treat that as a denial, and I will stop it using the same process. I'll put my hand up and say, Don, I know that's very important to you, and I promise we're going to get to that in just a minute and go right back to what we were talking about. The reason I think, I can't speak for him, Scott and Greg did this, is because this is not an interrogation. He's not captive, and he can walk out of that room at any time, and they're not there to get a confession to a crime per se. They're there to collect data, and they're specifically there to collect a whole lot of data, as much as possible, that can be analyzed at a later date, like we're doing right now.
Yeah, I would have been impressed if we got a confession out of a guy in a Holiday Inn conference room.
Yeah, we knew that going
was
too.
Yeah, that's all it was, guys. We knew there was little chance anybody was going to, well, and we didn't know Don from Adam. I mean, we'd seen him on TV and that, but it doesn't matter. The fact that most people are not going to confess, I think Dr. Phil said people don't confess in a crowd, the same mindset, right? That's the way you got to look at it. You've got some past. You said recently you've had some drug and alcohol things, maybe. Have you? Who in your life would you think is less than above board that you deal with?
Who in life has been above board?
Yeah, who's less than above board? If I was saying,
no, not nobody that I know of except for our neighbors and stuff. I mean, the guy, the meth heads and stuff like that, and whatever like that. I mean, we're trying to fly right, and we're trying to do the.
I get it, man. Life is. I would say life is a challenge between being this and what is underneath.
Okay, and let me back up for a minute with the stepsisters. They said they never knew we had a daughter. 2.5, 3 years ago, I called my dad, and they were there, and they were bragging. I was like, they was asking about Summer, and I was like, yeah, and so they said they named one of theirs Winter. So they knew. They lied when they said they didn't know.
Yeah.
I told you I'm going to have to ask you some hard questions.
Yeah.
So what do you say to somebody who says, no, you're involved, your family's involved? How do you respond to that?
Well, for 3 months, I spent on the phone for 3 months. I accepted every friend request there was. People want, hey, well, I'm your friend, we can report you. And, for 3 months, I stayed on the phone day and night trying to find her baby. So I figured Facebook's the best tool possible to help find her. And but there's this group on Facebook combating this the whole time, and we don't know who this group is or what they're up to.
All right, Greg, what do you got?
So this one bugged the hell out of me. I've watched this one a dozen times. I've poked on this one because it is the most anomalous thing he does through this entire video. I was sitting across from him and thinking, what the hell is this guy talking about? He just shifted gears and went down the path of, I'm on YouTube, I'm doing this, I'm playing around on Facebook, not YouTube, I'm on Facebook, I'm answering every email, I took every friend request. But his body language doesn't look like he's nervous or lying. I was thinking this guy's either like some mastermind evil genius guy and he's been playing me the whole time, or I'm missing something. And I watched this video a dozen times probably, and just over all that time still couldn't get exactly to what it was. And Scott pinged it. Scott, you want to tell him what you saw?
Yeah. So when that happened, Greg and I were both like, oh, you could hear it. If you're in our brains, you just go, oh, go, here it is. Go to now. We look like ventriloquists. Oh, my God, dude, here it comes. And so what happened was this. He didn't understand the question. He thought it was, how do you respond to those people who are saying that on Facebook, in social media? What do you do to respond to that? Not like if we were to say, so what do you think about when people say that we think you're full of it? What do you think about that? That's the way that's the way we thought it was delivered, but it wasn't delivered. But he didn't take it that way. In other words, he thought we were saying, how do you respond to those people? on Facebook and on YouTube. That's his answer. That's why he goes back to, I joined all these things because I know that's the number one place to find out about a missing child. I know. So he's telling us the things he did to help her. So his brain isn't even going down that road that he might be in trouble for something now. If you'd been waiting for that question or on guard, you would have taken that question for the way it was meant. But he didn't. His head wasn't in that space, because even if you were in there a little bit, you would have been on there and go, hey man, here's what I say. But he took how do you respond as how do you respond to those people on Facebook. That's why we're seeing it. And after that, man, just boom, just lopes right along, tells us everything. Not a whole lot there that's outside of his baseline at all. Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, you guys should have called me, because the moment I saw that, I understood, because I understand the neural type. He missed the spirit of the question. The spirit of the question is, what do you say to anybody on the planet, nobody specific, but like anybody who says you probably know what went on here? His brain goes, oh, you're talking about somebody specifically. And it goes, I know specifically who you're talking about. And it locates that specific person and the group they belong to, and starts to recount the story of that and how he's done everything that he could and should do to appease that individual or unnamed, unspecified group. The spirit of the question was, what do you say to the kind of person who doesn't believe you? He went, I know the person you're thinking of. Let me tell you everything that I've done to appease this group. So yeah, there are some neurotypes out there that will take you really quite literally. And he could be part of that group, or it could be the pressure of this moment, or simply that every question that comes is a Rorschach test, and you just go, well, here's something I want to get off my chest. Here's something I want to talk about. Here's what it means to me. And so I'm going to take your question and unconsciously make it the question that would mean that I could give you this answer. But look, the important thing for me is look how far awry you would go if you took his answer as being him being duplicitous or not telling the truth, or which you could easily mistake it for if you wanted to, if you didn't take this line that we've taken, which is, well, you just didn't understand the spirit of the question here. Chase, you got anything different from that? Shock us if you can.
It sucks. You guys got everything. But I will say, on the analysis of the behavioral table of elements, if you just use that with no experience, you would have seen hesitancy, you would have seen ambiguity, and you would have seen a non-answer. That's not even that's just his verbal. That's not his body. So you would have seen all those, which would have given you a score of 12. Not understanding that he interpreted that as what did you type back to these people? How did you respond to these people who were making these accusations on the internet? So I think that's fascinating. Increased blink rate at the very beginning is not deception at all. That's him processing like, oh, that's what got me. So when the blink rate went up and I know he's processing, he doesn't need to process, well, like, here's what I would say to a person. He needs to process, here's all the messages and human beings that I've spoken to, and I'm going to make some sort of amalgamated answer for that. And he continues to use team pronouns here. It's our group, and they, and them, all throughout the response here. So that's all I got. This is a fascinating clip.
And the interesting thing for me is I actually said it two ways, because I saw his face when I said, what do you say to? And he kind of had a look. And I said, how do you respond? And that's when he seized on the question, is what I see now. Mm-hmm. And when you're asking questions, you try to get through to a person with whatever you see. And I could tell he was a little confused by what I was asking in the very begining. That was all. But yeah, it's a great catch, Scott.
I told you I'm going to have to ask you some hard questions.
Yeah.
So what do you say to somebody who says, no, you're involved, your family's involved? How do you respond to that?
Well, for 3 months, I spent on the phone for 3 months. I accepted every friend request there was. People want, well, I'm your friend. We can report you. And, for 3 months, I stayed on the phone day and night trying to find my baby, because I figured Facebook's the best tool possible to help find her. And but there's this group on Facebook combating us the whole time, and we don't know who this group is or what they're up to.
Let's do this. Chase, put those glasses back on a minute. Let's all decide who Chase looks like, because I know.
I don't know.
Everybody got it? Looks like that little mouse. What's that little mouse that wears glasses like that?
Oh,
is it Stuart Little?
Stuart Little.
Stuart Little.
Yeah. That's who it's like.
Now there's going to be a swarm of art coming in from panelists.
There will be.
I can't wait.
Did you rape your sister?
No.
Did you rape your niece?
No.
Did you molest your first set of children?
No.
Did you threaten to kill him?
I can give you my kids' number, and we can talk when this is done.
Sure.
And we'll talk to them.
Sure.
Did you threaten to kill him?
No.
Okay. I want to go last.
Okay. Stuart, you want to go first?
We're seeing this eye closure, which guarantee you, if we just aired this without our analysis, we'd see 1,000 comments of like, oh, there's rapid blinking. He's lying. we're looking at clusters to determine deception. We're looking at multiple things to determine deception. And we've also determined that this blinking is part of his baseline. He's processing data on every single question here. Each denial is rapid. His answer is rapid. He tends to have a lot of latency, which is a time between the end of a question and the beginning, when there is hesitation and when there's doubt and when there's like, I need some time to make something up or I need some time to think through my answer. This eye closure is not enough to say that he's being deceptive. And the only movement here of hesitation is the final denial that he makes. On the very final denial, the small retreating motion of the head and some eye closure there. And neither of these would score as deceptive. Even adding them together would only give you an 8. So this is an excellent masterclass, mini micro masterclass in what we're talking about when we say clusters. Like here's a deceptive behavior. Here's a deceptive behavior. It doesn't mean much. And one of those deceptive behaviors that you might see is something that this person does habitually all the time, no matter what they're talking about. So that's when we say baseline is important, and probably secondary to baseline is looking at clusters. Scott, what do you got?
All right, I'm gonna say those first 3. The last one, so different than those first 3 questions. Did you threaten to kill him? No. All the classics. Backs up. Says as he says no, it goes quieter. It goes ah. But you see here that go up there in the middle. Man, that's when I want to. There's no reason to lay into that because it doesn't go with what we're dealing with at that point. So I laid off it. But that's the one that made me get big. I want to go. Yes, you did. You know you did. I want to do one of those, but I didn't at that point. But I would have had every right to. Looking back on it, so I think I agree with Chase 100%. Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, I would agree. So clear, confident denial in the first lot of them, and within that first lot, he even becomes aggressive. I would say with Greg there, like we've seen him get at other times, and then he substantiates his claim. Not a great substantiation, like we can go and ask these people if you like. That's not a huge substantiation, but he does substantiate at that point. He's clearly going to go, look, it's not just me that's going to say this, it's other people as well. Ask the community kind of thing. So that's important, but I would agree. We get swallow gesture on the last one. We get slight sour taste there. We get slight head turn on that as well. Yeah. If I were to lay money, has he threatened in some way to kill somebody in some way at some point? Yeah, probably. But is it important for this situation here? I don't think so. But I think he knows. Yeah, he's had a number, or he's got angry and he said some stuff. And I think many of us might fall into that position at some point as well. And if asked that question, and wanting to say no, we might show some of the same indicators as well. Greg, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, so this is a really good one for me. We always say that people can have more than one way of dealing with folks in a situation. What I think we're seeing here is Don dealing with authority, or he perceives us to be authority or whatever it is, and he is very kind and polite and quiet. I guarantee you, and this is not just Don, this is everybody, there's another side we are not seeing here. That swallow before he gets to that question, these are nasty questions. And if you think he's responding by his blink rate or that kind of, any one of you, just show up and let me poke you and ask you, did you do this? Did you do that? We tell you all the time that people get angry when they're accused of something they didn't do. And we can see a little bit of that in that rise in his respiration, a little bit of that. Just pay attention to him and you'll see just a little edge rise in Don at this point. I could see it there. And then I agree with you, Scott, and with you, well, with the three of you, when he gets to that fourth question and he goes, no, something sounds odd and off. And I agree with you, Mark. Did you threaten to kill him? It could mean, I'm going to kill you if you keep that up. It could mean, no, I'm going to come out there and kill you. We know that he can rant and rave. You can find him on YouTube and doing that kind of thing. But every person can, when pushed to a point, I'm not defending him, but saying, I can see the other person behind there. And Don's not a little fella. He's a good-sized fella, so he's probably been accustomed, and he works with his hands. He's probably been accustomed to being physical in his life, and he had to make it through. As he told us in the very beginning of the story, I was raised in county jails, so he had to be relatively tough in his life, and I would bet with the right amount of pushing, I could get a little bit more aggression out of him, and I could sense that sitting across from him and asking these very ugly questions. And I agree with you. He went and said, we'll call my kids. He didn't say, we'll call my other accusers, because they're accusing. They're also accusing him of doing something to his kids. But he said, my kids will tell you that didn't happen. And so there, I'll leave it at that. Did you rape your sister?
No.
Did you rape your niece?
No.
Did you molest your first set of children?
No.
Did you threaten to kill him?
I can give you my kids' number and we can talk when this is done.
Sure.
And we'll talk to them.
Sure.
Did you threaten to kill him?
No.
All right, here we go. Do you know where Summer is?
Oh, no. I wish
Do you
I
have
did.
any earthly idea what happened to her?
No. I wish I did.
Do you think Candace had anything to do with it?
No.
And what about this? And you think what might have happened to her was what?
She was kidnapped.
Yeah.
All right, Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, very simple. She was kidnapped. seems very assured of that. Downward intonation on that, the eye contact that he has on that, really, really assured. So I'm just going to leave it at that. I've got a question about it. Any earthly idea what happened to him, to her? And then we get this eye flutter on that, and I don't know what that might be about. So I'm kind of interested what you know ideas on that. Chase, what do you think? Any answer for me on that eye flutter just after? Any earthly idea what happened?
No, I think he's processing data. I think an eye flutter wouldn't mean very much. Did you want me to go as well?
Yeah. I'm done. I mean, that's just assured for me. That's the only question I have in that one. Yeah.
Okay, so his eye closure here, if we're just going to stick on that, is different in the question about Candace. And every other question throughout the entire video, even the clips that we're not looking at here with you, his eyes flutter. When talking about Candace, they shut. They are shut down. And each of his denials contain multi-syllables. There are high frequency tones, there's low frequency tones, so there's tonal fluctuation in his voice. And when it comes time to talk about Candace, Scott asked him about Candace, and you gave him time to talk. You didn't just let him say one thing. There's a huge window of time for him to talk. So there's no frequency, no highs and lows, one syllable, one word answer, and it's a downward tone, which is the opposite of him talking about being kidnapped. And this stands out as being so different that this is a huge red flag. His eyebrows move and communicate in every single denial except for the one about Candace. His head shake slowed down and was more deliberate when it came down to talking or denying when he's speaking about Candace. And his no turned into a nah more when he was making that denial about Candace. And he nods his head yes while saying that she was kidnapped, which goes with his baseline behavior in that he believes it and that he agrees with that statement. So I will say I'll just say I would suggest that there is a very high likelihood for deception around the question that Scott, you specifically asked about Candace. I'll let you talk about that.
All right. My concern with this at first was when I said, do you know what happened to her? And he said, no, I wish I did. Now, a lot of times you'll hear parents say, I wish I did after that. No, I wish I did. That's fairly common. If you go through these people that are asked that question. But when we got to the end, I said, well, what is it you think that happened to her? And I was saying these things not like, so what do you think happened to her? They're very wide as I'm asking them. So he has to take them in word at a time and almost guess what I'm going to say next so we can get that reaction once it dawns on him. That's the part that bothered me when he said she was kidnapped. Greg has a great take on that specifically. But I think later on we get into a situation where as he goes through, we still aren't confident that he believes Candace. And from my perception of what's going on, I'm not so sure he believes what she's saying, because what Chase, what you're saying, you've covered everything on that. So yeah, the eye and her eye blinks and her eye blocking at that point plays a huge part in that. Greg, what do you got?
Yeah, there's a difference in Chase, you're on to exactly what I was hearing. Everything else here is the no. If you just listen, it's a grunt almost when he comes out about Candace. And I had the same suspicions. And the last one, I'm going to leave everything else off and just talk about the last one. Kidnapped is the first time we hear this word. He's used the word abducted before. Kidnapped is not the same as abducted. Kidnapped usually comes along with a request for something in exchange for the person. Most all humans think that. We watch TV. We know. Now, could it be that it's a subtlety wasted on Don? Could be. But when I heard that word, my brain went ding, 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 ding. Because, I'm a hammer and nails are there. And I worked, anti-terror through my life. Kidnapping means something. There's a reason. It's political. It's economic. He has nothing political to offer. So what in his head does he think kidnapping means? And then along with that Candace thing, it just raised all of my red flags. Now, does that mean that he intentionally did that? Don't know. Did he say kidnapping versus abduction? He said in other places. Don't know. Does he know the difference? Don't know. We didn't get to that level of nuance. The last thing I'll leave you with is when you're talking about someone you have a very tightly bonded relationship with and they've been together for a long time, your tone may be different when you're talking about them. If I ask Scott about Amber, his tone will be different than if I ask him about Chase, for example, because
I don't know about that.
You never know. I don't know about your guys' relationship outside of work.
We're very close. Chase and I are very close.
Do you know where Summer is?
Oh, no. I wish
Do you
I
have
did.
any earthly idea what happened to her?
No, I wish I did.
Do you think Candace had anything to do with it?
No.
And what about this? And you think what might have happened to her was what?
She was kidnapped.
Yeah.
Right. Great. All right. Now let's run around the room really quickly and we'll all give, 30 seconds or less of what we think happened. We'll go to Mark, we'll go to Sweetie Pie, then we'll go to Greg, and we'll see where we end up there. Mark?
Yeah. So, what comes out of this for me is how easily he gets wound up in this soap opera that's going on concurrently with the search for Summer Wells. And I think it's quite easy for us to get wound up in that soap opera. What I take away from this is to try not to do that and try and stick to the more factual elements that we can see around us. So really, this whole thing is just a lesson for me in saying, can we keep things a little bit narrower and not widen it out into this extraordinary soap opera with stepsisters and all kinds of and YouTubers and Facebook and all these people involved, and narrow it a little more down, because I think that's where we're going to find the real issues here. When I look through the whole of the interview, I do get interested by how unsecure that area is, and all the people who come up with, for all kinds of reasons, looking for her. That's where my nose would be going right now, towards that. Not so much on Don. Could be wrong. Chase, your thoughts?
This video really illustrates the importance of understanding microcultures and cultural differences in people. This is the reason that we baseline human beings. And when we hear these phrases like "got gone" and things like that, I didn't know until very recently that that's common along that entire part of the country. It's a super common phrase. My mistake. I'm open to admit all that stuff, because that's part of what we're understanding when we're talking to somebody that's in a microculture. We're also talking to a person with a checkered past that everyone will use to paint the future. I'm going to dip my finger in this past. I'm going to start to just paint the future. And I'm going to be very certain about what's going on. I think that, in my opinion, that Don Wells is mostly honest. And I think that there is a tremendous amount of doubt or uncertainty at a minimum with Candace's story, or her level of involvement, or her knowledge of what actually took place. And maybe there's some knowledge there. I think I went over 30 seconds. I apologize. Greg, what do you got?
Yeah, this is one of those great opportunities for you to take away your bias. I'm going to tell you, when I went there, the guy has a background. We know he has a background. He may even still be doing some things that you may or may not agree with. I'm not talking to any of that. I went there with one purpose in mind. I wanted to know what he knew about Summer Wells, what this whole thing is about, and whether he was involved in the disappearance of Summer Wells. I'll tell you, based on his baseline, which we went through a lot of process to discover, pushing him into corner with some simple questions that he had no reason to lie about that caused stress, and looking for that stress level to rise. And then finally going right to the point and hammering and seeing him emotional about this kid the day before. I'm going to tell you, I don't believe he's involved in her disappearance. Could it be wrong? Sure. But based on everything I saw face to face, based on everything I felt and saw and learned and thought and listened by watching and listening to his baseline and looking for deviation at the key moments, I don't think he's involved. Scott, what do you got?
I agree with Greg. I don't think he is either. Having been there with him, I agree 100% with you. I don't think he was involved at all. He didn't answer the questions correctly to be involved as far as that goes. But I agree with you guys. This is a perfect example of, it's a great example of being able to not only watch somebody be questioned and interviewed, but be able to get the other side of the people who are interviewing it, give you their side of it as well. Why we ask questions this way, why our approach was a certain way, why we were quiet here, why we get a little bit louder in other parts, which I think we're going to do. Are we going to do a next part 2 of this, you guys?
I'm for it.
Sure.
We still got one to do.
We should keep bringing it up until we find Summer.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, because they're going to find out what happened, and I agree with Greg. I don't think he had anything to do with it. So at the same time, I don't think he believes Candace or her story on that, whatever it is. I guess from the TV interviews. So I think it's a great example to be able to see someone be interviewed and also get the input from people who interviewed that person and why they did it, and give you an insight as to what we're thinking is to get those.
Okay, so based on what they're saying, they're all in unison to say that they don't believe Don had anything to do with it, but at the same time, they're saying they don't think that Don believes the story that Candace told. So there's a little problem there. I don't know, you guys. I don't know what to think, still to this point.
Yeah, but
Yesterday,
yesterday, if you remember, they asked him at the end if he believed that Candace could do it. Remember? And he didn't even take a break. He just said absolutely no. And it wasn't
he says absolutely not. Right. He says absolutely not.
Yeah. No.
But
she would never. And so today I told you my theory. I already came up with mine. I think that was Shane when he looked down when they said Candace.
he could be trying to convince himself.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't have anything to do with it, but
you know what I mean?
He did. Do you know what I'm saying? Go ahead.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I do know. I know exactly what you're trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
Here, let me throw this up
You
here.
might have just been right the whole time.
Mark, thank you. New details tonight in the search for 5-year-old Summer Wells. Incident Commander Tim Coop says the command center at Mount Carmel Baptist has been demobilized and that multiple local search crews and outside resources are on standby now.
Tonight marks 2 weeks since Summer's parents say she was last seen at their home in Hawkins County. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation says they have received 650 tips in the search for 5-year-old Summer. TBI tweeted this afternoon urging the public to only share information from credible sources, adding, quote, sharing speculation or rumors only makes the process more difficult for law enforcement by increasing the number of non-credible tips, end quote.
News Channel 11's Bianca Murray joins us live. Bianca, we got to speak with both.
Sorry, guys. I just threw the wrong one in there. My apologies. I'm trying to find.
Well, when did that Andy guy live there?
The neighbor.
Wasn't it he the boyfriend? Is her name Jody Sue or something?
Yeah, that was 3 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Roughly.
So he's been gone for 3 years.
Yeah. I did want to go. There's something else I wanted to put in yesterday. I didn't get to when I had explained to you guys about Robin, the Sabbath school teacher that she saw. I'm sorry, not that she saw, but that Summer was close to.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
Oh, nothing. I was just saying my honey would just walk past behind me. So
County home. The suffering in the Summer Wells community is palpable. The pain of having a little girl just disappear without a trace, made even worse by the online harassment and attacks from outside the area and online. People accusing those of trying to help Summer of somehow being involved in her disappearance simply because they knew her and loved her. Many now refusing to speak on camera because of the threat.
I understand what you're saying, Jane. All I'm saying is that they believe that Dawn maybe doesn't believe Candace's story 100%. I'm not saying that we know anything. I'm just saying that's what it comes off to be. But it is definitely, again, I just don't know. Not yet.
Threats they've received. One woman is finally breaking her silence after more than a year in hopes of inspiring others to pray and to send a message to Summer.
And you are loved and you are missed so very much.
Robin Lane, Summer Wells Sabbath school teacher.
Summer is just the most amazing little girl.
Had a one-of-a-kind friendship with this little ball of energy.
Yes, we really clicked because Summer is just kind of silly and goofy, and I am too. You can ask people who know me. They know that I'm just a silly, goofy girl. And so I think we just kind of clicked in that way, that she could hang out with me and we would just laugh at the same stuff and giggle at silly, stupid things.
The giggling silenced. 2 years now, with the community still looking for answers.
We miss her a lot. We miss the love, the hugs. I miss her hugs so much. She was a very loving child.
A child who thrived when she felt that love right back.
Yeah, she really did. She came to me a lot and just wanted to be held and wanted to get attention. And I love to give attention, so it worked out good.
It's been a life-changing 2 years for Summer's special friend and teacher.
I lost my mom and my dad since Summer went missing. So just add that on top of losing a little girl and missing her so much. It has been overwhelming. And I don't sleep a lot. There's a lot of times where I just lay in bed and I just pray.
A hole in her heart for those lost and the pain of not knowing where could this vibrant child be. The smiling little girl who gifted Robin a necklace so proudly on Mother's Day.
I just felt like, Summer's kind of like a daughter to me. It feels just like I lost a child that I just was so precious and so dear that that's what it feels like.
But Robin says even when things are darkest, she sees something bigger.
I've already been inspired so many times by people who have told me that praying for summer has made them start praying again. That because they're praying for summer, that it has made them start talking to God again. And they might have been angry at God, they might have stopped talking to God, but because this little girl's missing and they care about her, they're praying for her. And in the process of praying for summer, they're starting to have a closer walk with the Lord themselves.
That inspiration has helped her forgive those who've used Summer's case as clickbait, silencing the voices of those speaking out for Summer, hoping to help in her safe return.
And it makes everyone just want to back off and hands off because they don't want to be next. And I really feel like the answer to that is to pray for God to soften their hearts and to help them because they're hurting people too. You know, initially I would get angry, and now I'm just like trying to view them as people who need prayer just as much as little Summer does.
And as Robin prays for Summer, she has this message for her.
Summer, if you are out there, I just want you to know, little girl, that you are treasured and that you are adored and you are loved and you are missed so very much. And I just want you to know that we are not giving up on finding you, that we are not going to lose hope in finding you. And I just want you to know that I am praying to our Heavenly Father every day for you, and I will not stop. Nobody is giving up, and I know I definitely won't give up. So just be strong, little one. Hang in there, and don't forget those Bible verses. Remember them. God is a very present help in trouble. That He will be with you. That He will answer you. Just cry out to Him. We love you.
So that, for those of you that weren't familiar, that was Robin, the one that Summer was very close to within the church. And I do think that that comment is a bit weird. I mean, I don't think she meant it in that way, but I don't know. There's some strange things in this case, you guys. There really are. Very strange things here. So, trying to find this, and I can't find this thing here. That was Robin, yes. I don't know why I can't find the actual interview. Where is it? Give me one moment, guys. Oh, maybe this is this it? Hold on. Just give me one moment, folks.
Oh, they're calling me for dinner. Talk to you. Are you guys going to do it tonight? Hello?
What'd you say, Terry?
Oh, actually, I have to get down. I'm going in to eat dinner.
Okay.
All right, cool.
Well, thank you for joining me. I appreciate you. I hope to see you later.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. Guys, give me one moment. I'm trying to pull something in here. I'm struggling with this. Just give me a second. I'll be right with Now, there's an interview. Again, this was something I wanted to bring out the other day, and I couldn't find it then, but there was an interview with another lady who was very good friends with the grandmother they call Grandis. Okay. And she talks about having a conversation with Grandis after the fact. And it was kind of interesting. One moment here. I'm trying to put this together fast for you guys. I do believe so. Mystery, I believe so. All right. I'm going to try to make this work. It's an audio recording I want you guys to hear, but it's a mixture of stuff, so I'll have to try to make it right. Let's see if it works.
To be missing. So
Dang it.
I do have the audio of this woman talking. We're going to listen to this together. I think it's very interesting. And so I want to compare this woman's story versus or in comparison to what Grandis said to the news media.
Can you guys hear that okay? And this is why I want you to hear this, because there was an interview with Grandis, the grandmother, okay? And, you know, she says what happened, and it goes right along with Candace's story. This interview contradicts that completely in a lot of senses. That's why I want you guys to hear this and give your opinion possibly and your feelings on what that is. Okay. So this is the friend of the grandmother. She was a good friend of the grandmother's. So here we go.
Now, there were some odd bits of information. She has fumbled in some points of the story, as far as what we've been told from Candace herself, Candace Bly. There is a difference there, and there's something which doesn't make sense. When I see Grandis talking, it's as if there's something which she is thinking. When I see her face, her facial expression, versus what she's telling the story, there's some awkward pauses. There's an odd, I guess you could say that it seems like she has something in mind. Meanwhile, she is giving the story which she was told by Candace. Now, with that whole scenario, another thing which is interesting is the fact that Grandis didn't come out until now. And you might ask yourself why. And I think that the reason why she didn't come out is because she didn't feel safe. She didn't feel that she could come out and say anything because Don Wells was still on the outside. And now it's funny that he's behind bars, he's in jail. And so with Don Wells in jail, Grandis has finally come out, and she is.
Now, mind you, yes, Don Wells at this point had been arrested and was serving time in jail for a DUI. I think he had 18 months, and he's in jail. Now, I don't know if that's truly the reason why this happened or not, guys. I don't know, but I remember when I played this before, when I was covering this, it was interesting. So, I mean, you take it for what it is.
talking to the media. That might indicate something. That might be important as far as the dynamics between the three of them up on the hill. Also, you might have noticed that Candace herself, Candace Bly, she has now come out. And so that is a big difference from what we saw in the beginning. At the beginning, the whole thing was being communicated through Don Wells. He was the one that was talking. And we did question why that was, because supposedly he wasn't there. We do have Candace coming out and saying that she does tend to call Don. Whenever anything happens, she gets Don's help. And so I'm going to get more into that after, but let's first listen to the audio. I have the audio of this lady who came out to talk. And I want to listen to that with you and let me know what you think of it. We don't get to see the woman, but we do get to hear quite a bit of what she says. And I will put a link for you if you want to see this for yourself. It is on Patreon. You can see the whole thing if you want. I will cover what's most interesting to me. And I want to, like I said, compare it to the other video of Grandis talking. And there's several things which popped out, which are red flags for me and contradictions. Okay, so let's get right into this. You guys, meanwhile, go ahead and put your comments below if anything seems important to you, if something comes into your mind, if you notice a contradiction or something that makes it an impossibility, or if you're suspicious, whatever it is that you might notice, just put it below, and then I'm going to get back to you. We can talk about it more, but let's just hear first what this woman is saying. Okay, so here she is.
See, she lied right there.
Yeah. All right.
Oh my God.
All right, let's go into it. So
she didn't go to the swimming hole. She didn't go. She stayed at the hospital. H and Summer and Candace went there. She was still at the hospital. See, she lied right there.
Okay, but her knee story. Let's go right to the beginning. So
all right,
the story about her going for her knee.
Yes.
Okay, so she's throwing some truth in there.
Yes.
The swimming hole, is that true?
Okay, guys, so this is the thing that a lot of us have suspected from the beginning, and that is that Grandis wasn't there. When we see Summer in that TikTok video swimming, we do see Hunter. We know that it's Candace who's taking the video, but Candace, the grandmother, wasn't there. That is what she's saying. And
investigation, guys, I remember going through this myself. A lot of people didn't believe that the grandmother was there, like it was clarified and stated that she was. Okay. What the truth was is that she was at the hospital. Okay. But I'm saying what a lot of people believe the truth was that the grandmother was dropped off at the hospital. They went and picked up Hunter, went to the swimming hole, and the grandmother was never there. She stayed at the hospital. Okay, for a while per se. So this is what is thought to be believed for the most part. I'm not 100% sure, Butterfly. I think so. I don't know if the grandmother was there or not. I go with what has been brought to us document wise and factual wise. I'm just giving you guys another side to this.
And that goes along with the recent news footage where we see Grandis talking, and she seems to have a problem recalling where Summer was. And so that goes together with this story that this woman is telling. What do you guys think about that? I think this is a huge piece that would show us a lie. For some reason, Candace Bly is telling that her mother was there. She's saying that her mother was there and that she helped her mom out of the car. But this gives us another, I guess I find this to be more logical, because why would the grandmother go there? If she's getting help with her knee at the medical center, and if she's getting a shot in her knee, if she's waiting for help, why would she be walking down that path if she has a problem with her knee? And it does make me ask, why would Candace Bly lie and want to have her mother as part of that story, that her mother is there? What reason would she have for lying? Let's keep listening. Let me know what you guys think.
She did not go. Well, I'm not going to say that she did. She told me she didn't. She was at the hospital. They went there and swung while she was at the hospital, and then went back after her.
Okay, so she wasn't there that day at the swimming hole?
According to what she told me, no.
But then how does she know that Summer was cold? Because remember she said that Summer was cold and had a stomach ache when she got out. So how does she know that?
Well, I guess after they had picked her up from the hospital, that's when they started talking about Summer did not feel good. She was cold. So I don't know when they changed her clothes. Apparently they changed it at I don't even know if they changed it at the lake or wherever it was, the pond. But
okay, guys, so this gives us the scenario that something happened at the water hole, at that lake. But what could happen? Why would Summer feel cold? If she is, did she get water in her lungs? Did she breathe in some of that water choke on the water, or did she go under and become maybe unconscious, or did she get, let's say, a septic shock? Did she get a cut? I've questioned if maybe she got like an injury to her foot. Maybe she stepped on something really, really sharp and it went through her foot, and maybe it was like she got because it's so dirty, maybe that was like an infection. I have no idea. What do you guys make of that? I do think that this woman's story.
Yeah, I know. When I first heard this, I questioned this as well. I wondered why this came out. And here's the thing. If this was the case, I would imagine that TBI would have interviewed this woman just as much as anybody else would have. I'm sure they heard this. Nothing's changed. You see what I'm saying? So again, I'm just giving this to you so you can understand another side of this, because there's so many different angles with this. It's all this is.
I have heard the whole thing, and I did hear it back in September, and it does seem to reflect what we're seeing with Candace, with Grandis, in the most recent media footage that we see of her. So we're going to look at that in a second, but let's keep listening to what she has to say.
At what point did Grandis see Summer take a swig out of the orange pop bottle?
That's after they had picked her up from the hospital, after the swimming deal.
Okay, so after the swimming deal, and they picked her up from.
Yes, this is I for those that don't understand, this is supposedly a friend of Grandis's. Her name is Rose. Yes, for those of you that were questioning that, I'm sorry. Yeah, a little bit. Well, one of them was, according to what went on, Cassie. There was a twisted tea, I think, that was bought, and Hunter was the one that was drinking that, from my understanding.
From the hospital.
Yes.
And
I'm sorry. Go ahead. After they dropped Hunter off, Summer picked up that soda and started to take a drink. Grandma yelled at her and said, "No, Summer, don't drink. It's been in here for a while." And gave her a small bottle of water.
Did she observe her drink that bottle of water, or no? Did she say?
She didn't say.
Did she ever explain to you how the video came about, the little video that appeared on TikTok of her turning around and taking video of Summer leaned against the milk cartons? Did she ever explain that?
No.
Okay. So there's well, I don't think she's claiming in this interview, though, that she was there when they went swimming.
All right, guys. So now, if you recall what Hunter said, when Candace Bly arrived to pick him up, she had just come back from the medical center. She was at the medical center with her mom, and she comes from there to Hunter's to pick up Hunter, and Summer is there. That is what Hunter says. Hunter says that he sits in the front at that point. He says that he moves the boxes from the front seat into the back seat, and he then goes with them. But he says that the grandmother wasn't there. And that goes along with this story as well. So either this woman has really done her homework, or she's just telling the story that Grandis told her. And it does match up with what we know. So I think this is important because it does make a difference if there's a big lie. For some reason, Candace wants to say that her mother was there, but it does make more sense that she would be at that medical center. So let's keep listening here.
No, I think Candace's name just got finished because she didn't say nothing about that. Candace called her and told her she was done.
She said they came back and got her. Was Hunter there when they picked her up?
Yes.
Okay.
From the hospital, yes.
Okay, so they all pick her up, and what did she tell you were the events, the next transpiring events?
After they dropped Hunter off.
Well, did she drink from the soda bottle before or after?
Oh, you're talking about why they? Okay.
When did Summer say she was feeling sick?
That's when I guess they picked up Grandma. She said she did not feel good, and she was cold. I think Hunter was still in the truck then, I believe, when that happened.
Grandis tell you she saw Candace put the warm school clothes on Summer?
No.
But she saw Summer drink from the orange pop bottle.
She saw Summer pick up the orange, put it to her mouth, whether she drank it or not, who knows. But she yelled at Summer, told her, "No, do not drink. That's been in here for a while." And Summer put it down, and she gave her a bottle of water.
And then at what point did she tell you that Summer conked out?
It was on the way going home, and she fell asleep and just fell over on those milk jugs and was sleeping.
So do we know, did Grandis tell you whether she was sleeping before the stop to get groceries or after? Do you recall?
It was afterwards. They'd already went to, when Candace picked her up from the hospital, they went to the store to get whatever they got. Hunter was still with them when they went to the store.
Right.
All right. After they went to the store, they went and dropped Hunter off. Okay. On the way home, Summer said, well, I don't know if it, well, I had to be on the way home, said she was cold and she did not feel good.
And when they dropped Hunter off, did his mother come out to the car or no?
Well, Grandma told me no.
And how did Grandma, what were the words that Grandma used? And I don't mean any offense by this because I'm paraphrasing what she said, but what were the words that Grandis used regarding Hunter's mom?
She said that 2-ton did not come to the truck.
So she was emphatic And again, I don't mean offense. I'm not trying to be offensive. I'm not trying to mock Hunter's mother in any way, shape, or form.
Me either.
We're paraphrasing what Grandis told you about Hunter's mom. That she said to you that Hunter's mom was a liar.
Right. That she was a liar, and that 2-ton did not come to the truck. No, I'll never forget that.
And Hunter, what? Just got out of the car?
Just got out of the truck, went up to the house. But his mom never came to the truck.
Do you recall if Grandis said when Hunter got out of the car if Summer was passed out or not?
She was sleeping. She was sleeping.
She went into a nap. Did Grandis ever tell you who put the milk jugs next to her? Did Summer do it or did they do it?
They did it. Summer didn't do it. Summer couldn't lift them milk jugs.
Candace and Grandis put the milk jugs under her?
They put the groceries in that truck, so I guess so.
Okay, guys. So, what is your take on that? What do you have like an instinctual? Do you think that this woman is telling the truth? Are you suspicious of her? To me, it seems like she doesn't know too much, and yet the bits that she does know turn the story in a different direction. She has some not too many details, but it kind of does change the story. The little pieces that she does have do indicate some major lies, and she talks about that Orange Crush bottle. For some reason, the grandmother doesn't want her to drink from that. And that now we hear that there's a bottle of water in which they gave Summer, she says, a small bottle of water. And we didn't hear about that before. Before it was only the slushy. And so now we're hearing that Summer had water, that Summer didn't feel well, that Summer was cold. And she's not really fabricating too much. And that is what makes me think that maybe she is telling the truth, because there's a lot that she doesn't know. And she says that she just doesn't know. And yet with the part about the grandmother being.
I'm watching chat. This was presented by a channel called Criminal Gossiper. I'm sorry. And I don't know for sure who's interviewing this quote unquote Rose lady, if that's her. This was sent to me in a different format. So thank you, Kimber. But that is what I do know about it.
At the swimming hole. That is a straight out lie, is what she said. This is actually very enlightening. And of course, this would be very interesting for the TBI to know this information. And I know that this was already given over back when the first interview came out. I know supposedly this was given to the TBI, and of course they would have heard it. You know, it's on media, social media. They would be, of course, following that. As Ronnie Lawson said, they do follow everything on social media. But this makes me think, what actually happened? What could it be that happened to Summer that would make her feel cold? And is that actually a part of what led to her vanishing? Does it have to do with this? Or are they making more out of it than what it really was? You know what I mean? Now I'm going to play the video of Grandis talking. I want to look at it very closely. I want to have a look at her facial expressions and the way that she looks when she's telling the story. And I'll let you know what I think of it as far as bringing Dawn into this and how the whole thing would have played out in this scenario.
Ziggy? Who are you? Well, this is what hold on a minute. I'm going to show you guys something. If I just 1 second. Thank you, Andy. This is what I was sent when I went looking for this. Okay, see the channel down here, Criminal Gossiper? And this is how I was sent this. I don't know who Ziggy B is. So what I'm confused as to what you guys are saying in here. You're saying this isn't a real interview? Critical K. I don't know who Ziggy is. You mean the older lady? Her name is Ziggy? Okay. So this was recorded and it wasn't. Okay, then. Well, this is something that I had heard a long time ago. I never knew right or wrong with it. And I went looking for it again because like I said, when I got a new computer, I lost a lot of the stuff I had from this. Okay, so Mom says it's a real interview with with a lady named Ziggy that made friends with Grandis. Okay. Okay, well, whatever then. I'm just forget it. I'll move on. I don't want it to cause any problems. Just wanted to give all the pieces that I had. Let's see here. I still can't find the newest one that I was trying to pull before. Hey, Kiki. Excuse me. Okay. I can't find it now. All right. I hate to do this. I don't think this is it. Okay, there's an interview that's new, and it was up last week. It was not. It's not now. I don't know what the hell happened to it. JLR has it, which I hate doing this, but I guess I'll play his version of it. Thank you, Barbie, very much. You're doing a great job. We appreciate all you do. It is a lot of work with the. Thank you so very much for the super chat, Barbie. I appreciate that. Kimber gifted 10 memberships. That's amazing. Thank you so much, Miss Kimber. I appreciate that very much. I can't see. Hold on a minute. Let's see who got them real quick, and then we'll go back to that. Thank you so much, Miss Kimber. That is so very much appreciated. God bless. Where are they at? Here we go. So it looks like KDB, innocent until proven guilty. D. Smith, Jujubee, April Wine, Noel, Victoria, Sky, Wayne Kersey, and the Snooper were all gifted new memberships. So thank you very much, Miss Kimber. That's so very much appreciated. So very much. And welcome to the sauce. Welcome to all the new meatballs. Again, innocent till proven guilty. Again, a super sticker for $20. Thank you so very much. That is very much appreciated. You guys are very amazing. I really do appreciate that so very much. So thank you and God bless so much. Where are we at here now? Sorry, guys. Excuse me. Okay. All right, one moment. That's very, very sweet, Miss Kimber. I appreciate that so very much. Very, very much. Very generous. You guys are amazing. Thank you all so very much. Okay, bear with me, guys. Sorry, I hate doing it like this, but I can't find the actual interview now.
But 3 years ago, it was filled almost weekly with people praying for Summer Wells.
I see all these families, you know, with their kids and how much they enjoy them and stuff. And we were stripped away from all our kids. All our kids have been kidnapped from us by DCS, and who knows? We're not sure about Summer, but we know about where our boys are at.
While the prayer vigils are now few and far between, Dawn and Candace Wells haven't stopped praying that their daughter Summer will be found.
We have hope, always. I mean, but there's not much hope in this world. It's like, you know, we have to trust God that there's hope and eternal life in heaven.
Summer was reported missing on June the 15th of 2021.
We know that she was taken off her property. We know she was taken away in a vehicle, or they would have found her in the area if she was somewhere in the area. But who's responsible for her?
You.
We don't know.
I asked Dawn and Candace when was the last time they heard from investigators.
We haven't lately at all. It's been a while, over a year, I think. I haven't talked to any law enforcement at all. I tried to talk to the FBI agent about it, but that didn't go anywhere.
Dawn says he feels that he and his wife Candace were targeted by the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office.
They intimidated us, they belittled us, and done everything they could amidst all the chaos. And then the CPS was there doing the same thing.
When asked about how he thinks about Summer's disappearance 3 years later, Dawn spoke about a Department of Children's Services investigation.
They said somebody had called and said that we was giving our kids loaded guns to play with. And so they closed the case June 14th, which is something CPS does not do. They don't just close cases. So it's really odd and mystifying why they closed the case June 14th, and then 24 hours later, Summer's gone.
Summer's mother, Candace, sat in for part of our interview, but got up after a few questions.
She was going to try, but her emotions are just too much.
The last update in the Summer Wells case from law enforcement was an age-progressed photo released in June of last year. This image was released by the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. If you have any information about the whereabouts of Summer Wells, call 1-800-TBI-FIND. That number is right there on your screen.
Okay, so that it's not much, guys, but that's the little interview there. Candace is still struggling doing interviews, obviously. I think somebody in here said it, but I think Kimber said, yeah, I've heard that he's completely sober now. He's gone through things and dealt with all that. I don't know what to think at this point, you guys. I don't know what to think. There's still nothing new. You heard him say that they haven't heard from law enforcement in over a year. Maybe somebody took her. Maybe they're telling the truth completely. You know, there's a lot of people that believe that it doesn't make sense. I struggled with that, okay? Maybe she came out of that door. You know, she went in the house, went down the stairs, came out that door, and started walking towards that hill. And somebody did see her and grab her and take off. Nobody's running down that hill, though, folks. I'll tell you that right now. Not possible. Yeah, I still struggle with those dogs. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, Molly. That's a great question. Why would CPS close that case like that? It's a great question. I have always felt like, you know, after hearing everything we heard in the very beginning, I thought possibly something could have happened, and Candace panicked and didn't know what to do. Okay. And then as I looked on through the case, I started wondering, there were no arrests made. There was nothing done. 3 years in, and Dawn and Candace are still walking around. I can't see that happening with TBI being on this case. I just can't. I don't get it. Now, another big theory I had a long time ago, I suspected Robin, you guys. I did for a period of time because she was so close to Summer. Okay. People get attached to kids and things happen mentally. Who knows? But I wondered, because she knew of the neglect, was it possible that she tried to take that little girl out of there? There were other things that were suspected of being done to her. There's no proof of that, but we've all heard the possibilities of it. And I'm talking about Robin from the church, JC. And I had to wonder, was that something that was set up to get Summer out of that house, that situation? But if that's the case, why not the boys? But I think that it was looked upon that bad things could have been happening to Summer. And that's why that thing that came to my attention, came to mind for me, that could have been something that was done. But at this point, I just don't know. I don't know. So, and see, that's what I was thinking too. That's what made me start to think the other direction. You would think Robin would go to the law enforcement or CPS and do it the right way. Of course. Absolutely. The boys are gone. Yes, they are gone. They are not coming back, from my understanding. And this isn't the first time that the Wells have lost children. Okay. And it doesn't mean, guys, that they did something to her because they have their children taken from them. That doesn't mean that. But there's a lot of things in their past, okay? And we all know that we cannot take somebody's past and hang it over their head now, because it's not the right way to do things. But exactly. That's it. There's no abuse to the children, only speculation. Well, yeah, of course through YouTube, of course innocent. But I'm trying to remember, where did we see? God, this has been so long now. Oh, well, I guess it does go back to YouTube then at the same point, because of Dawn's phone call, his sister and all that other stuff and this and that and everything else. And because of that, people automatically start thinking, it's like, no, there's no proof. Everything's been unfounded, folks. There's no CPS case on that. There's no nothing. So you really can't make that judgment based on that. I have to say, and I said this the first day we did this, the one thing I know for a fact in my mind that they're guilty of, at the very least, is neglect. Okay, there's neglect. And I'm not saying that they did it on purpose. They may just not have known any better. Some people are raised certain types of ways and they're just used to things, okay? The house being, it's not a crime to be dirty. We know that, okay? So they cleaned up their house. They put their house together. I've seen pictures of the house after the fact, and it looked pretty decent. The bedroom downstairs, the walls were painted, the beds were put in there the right way, things like that. I mean, it looked decent, you guys. I got to say it did. So, you call it what it is. So once they lost the boys, they started cleaning things up and putting things together, making things happen. They put walls up in the house where there weren't walls. They did all the things I think they were supposed to do to get those boys back, and they still didn't do it. I always thought that they had money because of Dawn's job, but I don't know. I don't know what their situation is. I don't. I don't want to judge somebody not knowing the truth. So in the end, I had to at some point say, did somebody just grab her? Did she come? See, I don't think somebody came up that hill into that yard and went inside that house. I don't think that happened because of those dogs. But I think it's very possible that Summer went out that door and maybe down that hill and somebody grabbed her there. And off she went. And I sadly feel like she was, because that area is, from my understanding, it was bad for this type of thing. And you guys have seen how many people are missing in Tennessee and children are missing in Tennessee. It's pretty bad, guys. It is. So, I don't know. And I hope she wasn't put into a trafficking situation, taken for that reason. You know what I mean? I just don't know. I don't know. I wish she would just come home. I wish she would just be found. Yes, there's a lot of that. Innocent is right. There's a lot of RSOs in that area, guys. A lot. It could have been just that. Somebody seen her and grabbed her and was done. It could have been something that somebody saw her playing outside for days or weeks and finally decided to act on it. The whole world attacked Dawn and Candace. I had my questions as well because of the way things looked, but there's no proof, folks. There's no arrest. There's been no arrests. There's been a lot of crazy shit that goes on around this. The neighbors and the people that are surrounding them, they're guilty of anything. Like I said, it's neglect and having, bad friends. So I just don't know. Ziggy Hill. Now I know that one Ziggy, I guess that was on here, ended up marrying Fred Hill, which I thought was kind of strange. So 1.5 miles from Ben Hill home, RSO has gotten out of jail. Yeah. Too many RSOs. I'm sure that's got to be where I'm at with it too at this point. It's bad, guys. It's very bad. And again, I will say something. Somebody said it in chat. I agree. I hate the age progression thing. She does not look her age. Okay. She'd be 8 years old. That picture makes her look 12 or 13. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I don't think it's on point at all. So, and I'm going to give you guys this last piece here. So a couple people brought up Rose, which is Summer's aunt, Candace's sister. I never got to really play it like I was supposed to. So, and that's going to be it for today, guys. This should have been this. I know this was disorganized, but I thought I had things saved in here that I didn't have, and I was going to be able to go right to it, and so on and so forth. But it didn't, and I wasn't able to. So I had to do it the way I did it. And I tried to condense it for you guys because there's so much of it. That was the other part of it too. Oh, thank you, Molly. So, what did I just do here? Hold on a minute, guys. There we go.
Joe, our son's a narcissist.
A girl who went missing last month is related to another missing person who hasn't been seen in almost 12 years. An Amber Alert was issued for 5-year-old Summer Wells in Hawkins County, Tennessee on June 15th. But back in 2009, her aunt was reported missing out of Polk County, Wisconsin. Then 21-year-old Rosemarie Bly was last seen leaving her home in St. Croix Falls to go to Cushing, 5 miles away. Investigators say she never made it to her destination, and her car was later found in a parking lot 30 miles away from where she lived. Rose is the sister of Summer's mother. Back in 2019, the Polk County Sheriff put out a video to generate leads on the case ahead of the 10th anniversary of Rose's disappearance.
It's horrible. It's hard to deal with, very hard to deal with. My life will never be normal without knowing where my daughter is.
The sheriff in Polk County says he will cooperate with authorities in Tennessee in any way he can to help resolve these cases. But at the time, they seem to be unrelated. Now he's hoping someone will come forward to give the family answers as to what happened to their loved ones. Rosemarie Bly was last seen August 21st, 2009. She's described as 5 feet tall, weighing 110 pounds with brown eyes and brown hair. She has a tattoo of 2 cherries on her right ankle. If you have any information, you're asked to contact the Polk County Sheriff's Office. Summer Wells is described as 3 feet tall, weighing 40 pounds with blonde hair and blue eyes. She was last seen wearing gray pants with a pink shirt. She was possibly barefoot. Anyone with information on her is urged to contact the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. For Inside Edition Digital, I'm Mara Montalbano.
All right. All right, guys. So, does anybody have any thoughts, any feelings, anything? Molly sent this through. It's a good point to see this. So this is a list, basically, of RSOs in this area. That's pretty bad, you guys. If you see, okay, here's the area. If you go out this direction, they're everywhere. Yeah, I'm trying to tonight, my mom. I'm gonna try if my internet's still on. I appreciate you guys all being here with us for this, for sure. Who said? Somebody said my opinion stays the same 3 years later. And what was your opinion from the beginning? Innocent, if I can ask. Please and thank you. I mean, that's insane how many RSOs there are. You know, it's just crazy. It really is. Always the same. What was your opinion? I'm just curious if you don't mind telling me. Innocent from the beginning, meaning that the Wells are innocent. Gotcha. So, what do you think happened to everybody? What do you guys think happened to Summer? Abducted, right? It's sad. A lot of people feel the same way, you guys. I feel she could be still alive. I do. I feel like she could be just as much as within the Sebastian Rogers case, right? So I think somebody took her, you know? That's what my thought was. I don't think anybody came, like I said, I don't think anybody came up in their house. I don't think that's what happened. I think just as Candace had described, I think she went downstairs, she was bored maybe, and she went out that door and she went to, Candace says she always made a beeline for that swing. I think something may have caught her attention in that area over there, going down that hill. And she went down that hill and was grabbed. And I this is a blonde hair, blue-eyed little girl. Okay, the freaks that are around these areas are just they're sick. And to see her, they could have been watching for a while, seeing these kids, right? And I think the timeline might be off myself too, because you got to think about it. And I've always said this with cases like this, when this happens, that panic sets in, and you can't think straight all the time, and you shouldn't be expected to either. So I think that it could be that the timeline's off. Thank you so much, Kiki. I appreciate you more than you know. I appreciate that so much. Thank you, and be safe and have a great night. So we got to keep her name out there, regardless of what the possibilities could be. We have to keep her face out there, regardless of what the possibilities could be. Hold on a second, folks. And we always need to remember Ryan Larson, of course. Does anybody have, Kimber, did you send me that? 1 second here. Aha. You did. Thank you. One moment, guys. All right, just give me a second. This is the newest missing child out of Clarksville now, Tennessee again. The Clarksville Police Department is asking for the public's assistance in locating a runaway juvenile, 16-year-old Hayden Douglas. She was last seen on June 14th at her residence on Cedar Crest Drive. Hayden's 5'3" tall, 5'3" inches tall, weighs approximately 198 pounds, and has long brown hair. See the attached photo. Anyone with information is asked to call 911 so an officer can check her status, or contact Detective Cash at 931-648-0656, extension 5264. This is from today, folks. I do believe so. 16-year-old Hayden Douglas. Again, I don't care if these kids are runaways, guys. A runaway turns into an abduction in seconds. Okay? Remember that, please. So another one, Hayden Douglas. And again, if anybody knows anything from this area, 931-648-0656, extension 5264, and ask for Detective Cash. It's from yesterday, not today. I'm sorry. Thank you, Kimber. The other one was found safe and sound. She's at home. And this one, now we have lost again. It's every day, you guys, and it's so sad. But we have to be resilient and continue to show these faces, these pictures, these names, the information, and just keep posting it every time we see it. We cannot stop. Because if we stop, then nobody else is going to do it either. Okay? That's how I feel about it. And I'm not going to. I can't. So, it's an epidemic, guys. It's worse than the drugs. It is. Or was there one from today too? Butterfly, Macy Young. Is that the other one? Okay, I knew there was one that went out today too. So hold on a minute. Hold on. Give me a second here. 1 second. So there's so many of them, I get them confused sometimes, you guys. I'm sorry. I don't have that one. Give me a second. Was it Macy Young or Macy Hill? I can't find that one. Let me try it again. Let's try it this way. You know what? It may not be out there because she's 17 and it's not qualified under an Amber Alert if she's a runaway. Where did you find it at? Macy Long. Oh, I'm sorry. Jesus, I need my glasses fixed. It's not coming up. I'll be damned. Let me try this again. Ah, finally found it. Thank God. Thanks, Butterfly. There we go. Good Lord. Oh, I know. I don't need them checked. I need the glasses, guys. They're expensive. Okay, so here we go. Sevier County, Tennessee is asking for the public's help in locating a missing 17-year-old juvenile. Macy Long left her home on foot at 7:30 p.m. near the Ernest McMahon area in Sevier County, Tennessee on June 18th, 2024. So this was yesterday. At last night, actually. It was last night. Macy was last seen wearing a white shirt, blue shorts, black shoes, and glasses. If you have any information on her whereabouts, contact Sevier County Sheriff's Office at 865-774-8937. 17 years old, brown hair, blue eyes. She's 5'7", 135 pounds. Very pretty girl. Again, 865-774-3937. If you guys see her, call them immediately, or if you know something, please call as well. It definitely does, Captain Jenks. We're working on that now. Arctic Fox has been working on that for a while. All right. So, and again, this has been put out through the Aware Foundation, and they do a great job. I'm very grateful. So again, Macy Long out of Sevier County, 17 years old, brown hair, blue eyes, 5'7", 135 pounds. She wears glasses. Guys, if you see something, if you hear something, if you know something, please call that number. Please do. Don't hesitate. Again, as I always say, guys, and we all do now, we all say, if you see something, please say something. Guys, stop minding your business and start minding their business. If we see something that's right, we need to make noise about it. We need to do something about it. If we see something that's not right, we need to say something and do something about it. That's right. If you see something, say something, guys. Period. That's all there is to it. I appreciate you guys joining me in here for this today. I really do. I know it wasn't all cut out to be what it could have been, but it was hard, guys. I used to have every file on Summer Wells. I got a new computer and I lost a whole bunch of stuff. I thought I had it all backed up, so I'm sorry that it was the way it was. I at least got her name back out there, her face back out there, talked about her to heat it back up. That's all I can say. That's what I wanted to do, and I did it. So more than as long as my internet's running, guys, I'll be in here a little bit later to do my late show. So I hope to see those of you that come in for that in here. I appreciate you very much. Again, thank you for those of you that donated to the channel. It is so needed and so very much. We are so very appreciative. Thank you, sir, for that. We're grateful for you. You guys are amazing. Guys, don't forget to love yourselves, love each other, and don't change anything about yourselves. You guys are amazing. Much love to each and every one of you guys. God bless, and I will see you soon.